Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description.
The Return of Joyboy by TheIntrovertRin. A story in which Luffy is the child of sea. The secrets of Luffy are unveiled slowly, which gives heart attack to people. Member list. Garrick Russell, Warlord. Black Money Young Lion, Warlord. KSG PL4YZ, Warlord. King Nemo, Warlord. Zach Travis, Warlord. Adios.
Chapter 15. Dragon called the brothers into his office. Once they reached Baltigo, he wanted to show Ace the truth and make Sabo know more about the deeds of the government. He knew Luffy wouldn't care much. His carefree son has always been that way, but he wanted to know his reaction to the ugly realities. There was a knock on the door and Dragon took a small glance at the stack of folders that lay on his desk. "It's open," Dragon voiced. He didn't like that his sons need to knock on his door to enter. But Ace was learning manners from Sabo and Ivankov, so it wouldn't hurt to help him. He saw the brothers smiling. He would bet that they have done something again to make Ivankov and Kuma stand on their heels. He chuckled as his mind formed the image of the angry but not so angry faces of his friends. His gaze went on to Ace, who raised his eyebrows at him. "How much do you know about your dad?" Dragon steeled himself. Ace's eyes widened and then realization dawned on him. He took a step back. But Sabo was quick to stand by his side to support him. Ace was looking down, with his knuckles bleeding white. "He was a demon and a monster and everyone hates him. I shouldn't have been born because I'm his son." Dragon felt anger course through him, but he knew what he had signed for. He could feel Ace forgetting all his joyful mood and looking angry, making Dragon himself feel guilty. Dragon could see in the corner of his eyes Luffy stopping in his tracks to break some files. He looked like he wanted to say something but Dragon shook his head at him, while Sabo looked shocked and was making gaping sounds like a fish. "I see," Dragon said and opened the files. "Take the seats." Dragon pointed to the chairs in front of him. Ace and Sabo took it without hesitance but Luffy climbed up onto his shoulders and he didn't mind. Dragon opened the files in front of him. The photos glorified themselves in front of the nervous boy, who was looking at his lap and biting his lips. "These are the truth, which I wanted to show you." Ace lifted his head and the first picture froze him. He gulped, and then took the file in his hand. He could see Ace getting visibly shocked after turning each page and Sabo's anger getting fueled. Luffy was making no sound. He was quietly staring at the pictures. It didn't look like he understood much. So, Dragon started speaking as Ace turned the pages. He pulled the next reports from leather folders and laid them out to illustrate the story, before putting them back to make place for the next ones. Ace could only stare and listen, and slowly start to shake all over at the picture Dragon sketched. Beside him, Sabo and Luffy made all kinds of noises. Some were surprised, others shocked, but most with incandescent fury burning behind them. Only Dragon's stern looks kept them from interrupting beyond that. At one point, Sabo started to whisper curses under his breath. Ace just sat frozen, barely able to keep processing Dragon's words and the evidence he presented. Each page in the folder revealed exactly how, when, and how badly the world government had twisted the people's views and spread the lies about the Pirate King, a man who was nothing like the government depicted. As each page was turned, Dragon uttered the exact stories which had happened. He told the kids about how the government falsified the information. He told them how his father freed the civilians from the tyrannical rulers of a country, how he rained destruction for the sake of his crew or in defense of innocence, which got twisted till it was made clear that he was the actual villain who was the cause of the fights when the real threat and the cause had been the Marines themselves who had been willing to kill innocents just to capture a few wanted men. He told them all about the war in God Valley where he and Garp fought together with the Rock's pirates. But the whole incident was covered up by Marines claiming that they were the ones who were responsible to eradicate the most heinous crew in the world. He told them and showed the articles which showed how Roger's roles had been completely erased and denied as if it didn't matter that he was one of the hands which helped the Marines to remove S. He presented all the examples where Roger was framed when in reality he was only protecting his crew and the innocents. He showed them how the whole world, the innocents, had been lied to. He didn't deny that Gold D. Roger was monstrously strong, even without a devil fruit. He told them about his devil luck, which always made him the center of trouble, but he would always emerge victorious and more strong. He added how his luck was like Luffy, who kept on attracting trouble, wherever he went. He told them about his horrible temper, like Ace himself, which was quick to catch fire and made him a devil incarnate when his loved ones were threatened. He told them how he never cared about people's opinions about him when he knew his loved ones didn't give a shit about it. He told Ace that he had never been some sort of evil demon, a curse upon the whole world. He told them about Kaido and Big Mom, who are far too evil to be considered demons, far too evil to suit the falsified names given to Roger. He told them the sole reason why he was given all those monikers. He told them how the world government wants to erase anybody stronger than them. He told them how Roger had reached the One Piece and had known the whole Void Century, which gave him the place in their hit list. When Dragon mentioned that he could feel Luffy visibly flinch and then frown, but he will keep it for later. He told them how that knowledge possessed a threat to the very existence of the world government, making them shout in the newspapers that Roger was a demon in his blood, which according to them was cursed, should never exist. He told them how his sworn brother was just a man, who had lived his life however he wanted and bore the consequences with a smile on his face. He told them that he lived with freedom and only wanted to be free and have lots of adventure. He told them how he had never expressed his desire to conquer anything. Ace's world is titled on its axis. Ace felt sick from the sudden information. He had been told by Luffy that his dad was a good person, but he always thought that he was trying to coax him, trying to make him feel better about himself, but he had never considered that he was speaking the truth and the world which he was living in was constantly lying to him. Dragon told them about the horrors of the celestial dragons. He told them how they praised themselves with cruelty and did things for which they should be executed. He told them the darkest realities of the world government. He told them how the Marines would turn a blind eye to the innocents and protect the system, how they would eradicate anyone who came in their path. He told Ace about Nico Robin, who had a similar fate to him. She is being hunted for the knowledge she possesses. She is being hunted cause she could read the poneglyphs. Dragon saw Sabo and Luffy getting angry with each sentence he spoke. He could Ace get a horrified expression at every word. He told them how some high-ranking Marines would abuse their powers and hurt the innocents all for fun. He told them that those people were the actual devils, not Ace's father, not any other innocents. I am considered as the worst criminal in the world, a monster, who shouldn't exist, only cause I face the government face on. Only cause I want to protect the innocents and remove the corrupt system. But the Revolutionary Army and the people who know me, know the truth. To my comrades, I am a savior, not a monster. But to the ordinary civilians, we are criminals. Dragon let a ghost smile spread on his face. Whose opinion should weigh more, your friends or the world's? Dragon observed the boys. Luffy was sitting on his chair now between his legs, listening to each word with full attention, and Sabo was gritting his teeth, his mind and heart wanting for seeking revenge, and Ace, he was frozen. Never take someone for woot them. Judge them with your own eyes, not by someone else's. There are many sides to a person's story, some untold and some told. Some good and some evil. But it's you who needs to decide what you want to see and hear. Dragon locked his gaze with that of Ace's. I can tell you this, Ace, your father was a man of adventure, but he was framed and shown to the world as evil. The only curse you bear is the world government's obsession with your father, the man who made the 5 elders cower in fear. Dragon looked at Ace, finding something. He wanted to know if Ace was okay. But his trembling hands and shaking body made Dragon feel bad. See Ace. Dragon stood up from his seat and placed Ace on his lap. Ace let out a squeak but didn't deny the comfort. The stronghold made him feel at home and he wouldn't deny that he felt warm. You are not a monster. Your existence is not a sin. You deserve to live as much as everyone in the world. Dragon wiped the tears falling from Ace's eyes. Ace was crying. He was just told with proof that his entire life he had been told a lie. His old man didn't deserve all the hate which Ace gave him. All of it. West was Jew. Saint Ali. Ace couldn't even recognize his voice. His voice was so broken. Luffy hugged Ace, giving him his warmth. Ace was grateful for it. Yes, Dragon confirmed his words. He could see Ace cry, holding his cloak, he allowed it. Those bastards, Sabo was fuming in rage. Those damn bastards. Sabo was there when Ace was all but filled with hatred. He had seen Ace curse his existence, and now he was told that everything was a lie. How can we stop them? Sabo asked, his anger flaring from him, and that was when Dragon caught another conqueror. Dragon gave a sad smile, knowing that they can't stop it now. Yeah, we can't let them be mean to Ace, Luffy supported. Right now, it's not possible, but once the world government collapses, I plan to bring the world to the light which the government tried to eradicate. Dragon hugged the brothers in his arms. They wouldn't know what will hit them. Ace felt himself cracking, he felt himself fall. He felt himself and his hatred crumble into millions of pieces. He couldn't believe that he'd trusted those people and let them control him. Ace felt himself choking on his tears. He felt embarrassment crawl up to him, but he spoke. He steeled himself for another question. Then why did Hila? FTM mom. Ace couldn't even recognize his own voice. If his old man was such a good man, then why did he leave them? Why did he allow Garp to capture him and bring him to execution? Did he never want him? He didn't notice the sad smile gracing Dragon's face. He was dying. Dragon said in a soft voice, as if fearing that Ace will break in a million of pieces. Ace stilled. His mind constantly repeated the words. Your dad had an incurable disease and he didn't have much time left. As much as I know him, he didn't want to die laying sick on his bed. He wanted to go out with a bang. Even if he tried to live for your sake, Ace, he wouldn't even be able to see your face. Old I live. Ace choked out, the last question in his mind. Yes, Dragon said without hesitation, making Ace cry out. He could hear his brothers telling yes. He could feel them against his body, trying to hug him, trying to console him. They had just said yes that simply. He was told that he should live, not die. He let out all the hatred and anger flow in the form of his tears. He didn't care if he would be called a crybaby for it. He just wanted to let out all the pent-up emotions within him. He just wanted to be free from his own hatred, which had held him from the day he was shown the truth. After some good minutes, Ace was hiccuping due to sobbing. Dragon passed him some water, which he drank in a gulp. You have every right to live in this world. You're the best brothers that Luffy and Sabo could ever ask for. You may not know how to express yourself, but you are kind to your very core. It's up to you to accept your identity or not. Dragon gave a small smile. But remember, you have a family. You have me. You have us. He said with the three boys sitting on his lap, consoling the eldest brother. Ace nodded with tears in his eyes. I have hated my old man till now. I have hated every word spoken about him, without pondering if the words were true. The least now I can do is respect and honor him. Ace rubbed his tears and gave a small smile to his brothers. The least I can do is keep up my parents' wish and accept the name given to me by birth, Goldie Ace. But I will do it when I'll get stronger. Ace felt his shoulders lighting up. He felt the kind of freedom that he always looked for when he stared at the sea. He found the answer to his question. He couldn't help but let a small smile as he buried his head in Dragon's chest. A soft voice came from Ace. Thank you. Thank you so much. Dragon pulled him closer and ruffled his hair softly and nodded. No, Ace, thank you. I know it's a difficult topic for you, but still, you listen to me, Dragon said softly. That was no problem, Ace said. He could feel his cheeks brightening and his body heating up. She. When I'm big, I'm gonna make sure no one hurts Ace again, Luffy said with his cherry-sweet voice. Ace felt the heat on his face increase exponentially. Shut up, he snapped, furious with embarrassment. When I'm big, I'll deal with them myself. I won't need a little crybaby to help me. Sabo laughed. Maybe I'll beat you dead, he said with cheerful challenge. You're my brother, no way I'll let them get away with this. Ace sputtered indignantly and Dragon laughed. Whatever you'll do, I'm sure that the three of you together can make the world government regret their choices, he said, amusement making his dark eyes dance. All three of them grinned at that, bashful but happy to hear he had such faith in them. Dragon made his way to his drawers and pulled out two jewel boxes. He handed one to Ace and another to Sabo. That was the last thing your mother left for you, Dragon said as he saw a confused Ace. Ace's eyes widened and he opened the box slowly. He found a silver-colored chain with a light orange-colored crystal hanging from it. The color was a striking resemblance to fire itself. His shaking hands slowly opened it and he could see his mom and dad smiling at him. His fingers grazed their faces and he placed the necklace close to his heart, allowing the tears to fall freely. Thank you, Ace said softly. But why me? Sabo asked, clearly confused. Aren't these extravagant and expensive? Sabo loved the blue crystal which was hanging from the silver-colored chain. The color was similar to that of the calm sea. He opened it and found it empty. "'Cause you are my son," Dragon said as if that explained everything. Sabo nodded his head slowly, feeling his eyes getting glossy. He will get a proper family. He will get a dad, who cares for them and doesn't see them as a tool. Sabo sniffled his sob. Sabo and Ace were thankful that they have a place in the world where they can feel safe and have a family. A loving, caring family. Chapter 16. Dragon showed the brothers their own room. The room had a window from which the wind can easily enter. The room had a big king-sized bed, which could easily take in the brothers. First he had thought about separate beds, but he was reminded quickly that the boys wouldn't want it. In the corner were 3 desks, stuck to each other in shelves, where several books lay neatly. Some navigation, color books, books about the Grand Line, etc. The brothers' eyes widened with excitement as they jumped onto the soft bed. It was Ace's first time to sit on an actual bed. It was so soft that Ace was already feeling sleepy. Sabo felt himself smile after getting an actual bed after 5 years while Luffy bounced on the soft fluffy bed. "Thank you," Sabo and Ace together said, making Luffy repeat it too. Dragon chuckled and observed the kids. He saw them look at the room with eyes filled with awe and wonder. But he had other things to do too. He sat on the bedside and looked at the boys. "You guys need to have code names," Dragon spoke, making the boys turn toward him in confusion. "If you want to go for missions." That got nods from the brothers and an adventure from Luffy. Dragon looked at the brothers. "Any idea? What do you want to choose?" "Cyan," Sabo spoke with a shrug. Ace raised an eyebrow at that and Luffy's smile widened. Dragon smiled. "Cool hat," Luffy spoke with a giggle, causing Dragon to stiffen a chuckle with his sons. "That's lame, Lou," Ace pointed out while Luffy pouted at that. "Straw hat," Ace shook his head again. Luffy's hand went to his chin, thinking hard about what he should name himself. Red? Lucy? "Nope," Ace spoke again. Luffy went into deep thought. "Nika?" His mouth slipped on its own, causing him to grin sheepishly. Sabo saw this and quickly changed the topic. Luckily, Luffy has spoken in a very low tone, though he wasn't required to hide it from his own dad. But walls do have ears. How about Syra, Lou? Sabo asked with a smile. Luffy beamed at that, nodding, and Ace gave a thumbs up. Dragon, who noticed the change, raised an eyebrow but didn't ask anything. Now only Ace was left. What should he name himself? His brothers all have their names starting with the letter C. He will also have one with C, then. Cole. Ace spoke lastly. Nice names, we can have your group's name as 3 Cs. Dragon snickered jokingly, which got twinkling eyes from Luffy. Don't forget to call each other that, unless you want to reveal your identities to someone, Dragon said and left the room. Only he, Ivankov, and Kuma should know about the real names of the boys, and no one until the time comes. They were introduced to Kuma, Hack, and Koala, with whom they made friends easily. When Kuma saw the 3 boys fight like monsters, he took his words back. They could really pack a good punch. Their teamwork was excellent. It looked as if they knew what the other brother will do, without even seeing. Dragon was training them personally and he could see their developments. All those 3 little monsters had Conqueror's Cane. They learned hockey with little effort while the smallest one. Luffy had an affinity to hockey as if he was born with it, and it was confirmed when they were taught about Conqueror's hockey when Sabo and Ace told them how many times Luffy had used it. They looked like the exact definition of force of nature. When those 3 ganged on someone, that person would have to regret it and the watchers would feel pity for the person. The Dragon Claw attack, which he taught the 3, was already breaking stones. He was impressed by their strengths. But he would pity the people who didn't hear his advice on challenging the monsters, and took them as a joke. Those guys would always receive a broken bone in present. He was more impressed when he saw Sabo, the blonde, getting information in his head as fast as Storm. He could see the hothead, becoming more and more polite after his every session with Ivankov. It didn't take the brothers even half a year and they were already good at hockey. To his surprise, Ace was best in observation hockey, which seemed shocking, cause he was a hothead and had a little attention span. Sabo was best in armament hockey, which again seemed shocking. He was sure that he would be good at observation due to his brain, but no, that was just the opposite. Then comes the youngest one, who was best at Conqueror's hockey. He was surpassing his brothers at a fast rate. He wouldn't think twice when he would be told that he had unlocked his advanced hockeys before the brothers, in the pace he was going. It was almost amazing to watch the brothers pull out impossible from their hats. It was their first mission in the years they had spent in the Revolutionary Army. Their first mission after 3 years of training. All they had to do was to infiltrate a marine base and gather their important folders. They were even allowed to create a ruckus, but in one condition. They were not allowed to give up their real identities. Dragon wouldn't risk his father getting hold of the troublesome menace of the brothers. He even had made sure before giving them the mission that Garp was nowhere near the marine base. Luffy had stomped his feet, arguing to go with his brothers. He wouldn't take a no, but everyone knew that Luffy was worse at being quiet, but he was promising that he will try to be as quiet as possible and only create a ruckus when they have already gathered the folders. Dragon sighed, but he knew he will be safe, but still, they were kids. They weren't even qualified to go for the missions, but they were stronger than anyone in the army and he had seen them getting antsy for a good fight. He felt that they wanted to use their strength in full power. So, he allowed them. And the most plus point was Luffy's aim was getting good. He no more hit himself with his rubbery limbs. The brothers sailed for a couple of days to the marine base, hid their ship behind a cliff, and wore the stolen marine cadet uniforms. Luffy even placed his straw hat carefully, hidden in his uniform. Luffy was in a cabin boy uniform, clearly too young, and his height would not make him look like a marine. Ace and Sabo were in the recruit's uniform. They were wearing medical masks and had dyed their hair, for the mission. Luffy's hair was bright red like Shanks. Ace's was peach-colored like his mom, and Sabo's was black-colored like Dragon and his brothers. Ace couldn't help but vibrate with excitement. They were finally out of Baltigo and were about to create a ruckus for the world government. But he couldn't believe that their plan will work, especially when Luffy was involved. No way in hell he could believe Luffy was staying quiet the moment they enter. He attracts trouble like the bees which were attracted to pollen. He sighed behind his mask. Sabo stepped in his foot in a warning and glared at him. What do we have here? New recruits. Didn't know new blood was coming here. Tell me, why are you boys here? A marine captain was in front of them, clearly suspicious. He eyed them and tried to see if anything was out of line. Sabo spoke up, the one brother they were all confident in with talking to other people. Headquarters sent us out. Code 5687 in the Marine Handbook. The lieutenant blinked and then sighed. Fine. The bunks are in that building. The captain pointed at the building and walked away. Once the captain was out of sight and the boys inside the bunks, they snorted at the captain's foolishness to believe them so easily. Okay, here's the game plan. I'm going to go find the folders, while Ace will find the treasures, and Luffy, Sabo shrugged, you can play with the Marines, but don't get caught. Luffy smiled mischievously and shared a secretive smile with his brothers. Yep. The Marines' lives will be held tomorrow. Luffy smiled ferally under his mask. I'll join you soon, Ace smirked. The Marines would regret the day when the ASL brothers would leave the base. Ace slithered into the hallways with Sabo, leaving Luffy alone in the bunks. Luffy grinned as he made his way to the other side, low. When Ace and Sabo returned, they saw Luffy snoozing away while gripping a pillow. Ace and Sabo chuckled and closed the doors behind them and jumped into the beds. All they have to do is wait for tomorrow, to see the chaos reign in. The treasures laid on their ships already with the important folders in the hands of Sabo, clearly safe. In the morning, the ASL brothers made their way to the kitchen to grab some food but only took what Luffy was taking, and not the other food. Who knows that Luffy had already sabotaged what? That was when the chaos started. Who the fuck put salt in the deserts? There were sounds of spitting food on tables. Who the hell put washing powder in the coffee? Another event of spitting started. Sabo leaned to Luffy. How many coffee machines did you sabotage? He saw the glint of mischief in his little brother's eyes. All of it. He said proudly, puffing his chest. There's more, Ace said as a statement. He himself had sabotaged many things in his way and he wouldn't believe that this was the only thing Luffy had done. Sabo looked impressed at his brothers. Several Marines came out with pink uniforms and on top of it glitters sparkling over their clothes. Many Marines slipped in the hallways due to the oil which was spread on the floor. The cooks in the kitchen cursed when they found that sugar was replaced by washing powder and salt was replaced by sand. In the laundries, the washing machines puffed out glitters when the Marines tried to fix offices in the Marine base clearly looked as hell, all the files misarranged and not in the place where they should be. The washing powder in the washing machines was replaced by sugar and salt and not to mention the food colorings. The shampoos in the washrooms had been replaced by dyes, making the person's hair all rainbow colored. The towels contained sticky gels with itchy powders, making the Marines rub themselves on the walls. The cannons were all empty and the gunpowder was replaced by black pepper and other spices. Many Marines even complained about their uniforms all lost or found in shreds on there and small bugs were found in the only well clothes available for them to wear, making some of the Marines shriek here and there. When the Marine captains tried to report, they found all their inks absent and the feathers were hanging neatly on their heads when they tried to open their bathrooms. Some Marine hats were filled with sauces and syrup. All the single boats had an oar missing, which was later found in the places where swords were kept, neatly broken, and inserted in their sheaths. And the said weapons were nowhere to be found. The bedding in the beds of the Marines was covered with flour, making the Marines ghostly white when they attempted to rest. The snails which were responsible to monitor the hallways were freed or had disappeared, making them unable to contact any nearby Marine bases. The sword oil was switched with plain water. The cooking oil was switched with isopropyl alcohol from the infirmary. The cleaning supplies were replaced by a mixture of syrup, sauces, and all kinds of juices available in the kitchen. The bandages were replaced with toilet paper and the toilet papers were all gone from the washrooms. I'm impressed, Sabo said proudly as he heard the shrieks and screams of Marines coming from every corner of the base. I missed pranking with you guys, Sabo laughed. The brothers watched in glee as the Marines were frantically running everywhere. In short, the Marine base was a total mess. Dragon looked impressively at the three brats which were standing in front of him. They have again destroyed another Marine base in the Grand Line and have brought all the important doents and treasures from it, and even the weapons. He laughed as he got the report from Sabo about what they have done. Seriously, these kids are pranksters. He couldn't imagine what they would do if they were allowed to show their creativity in Baltigo. Maybe the whole base would get haphazard. Dragon quickly shook that thought in his head and praised the kids for their efforts. He understood the advertisements which were published in the newspapers about washing machines, coffee makers, and other materials. He couldn't help but laugh as time passed. Almost most of the Marine bases were left in destruction, and the Marines couldn't explain a thing that was happening. They couldn't even catch the boys even after 2 years of their constant infiltration. It was another infiltration mission in a Marine base and to their bad luck, they were surrounded by Marines. Luckily, they had changed into their cloaks before leaving the base. Ace was wearing a dark orange cloak, Luffy was wearing his dark red cloak and Sabo was wearing his dark blue cloak. The cloaks were doing a perfect job of hiding their faces from their enemies. They fought fearlessly with the Marines. Even the swords nor the guns worked on them. The Marines were getting only enraged, but they had their answers to what was happening since the last years. They were being infiltrated by 3 teenagers. They were being pranked by them. The captains in the Marine base tried desperately to fight off the kids. They tried their best to at least make them reveal their faces. From the voice of the 3 boys in front of them, they could easily deduce that they're teenagers and maybe a preteen. 2 voices were cracking in between sometimes, letting them interpret that they were around 15 or 16 and one voice was way too childish, and according to his height, he looked as if he was an 11 or 12-year-old kid. But their strength could surpass even a Marine captain and they were sure of that, by the way they were easily defeating them. Kicks and punches were exchanged and it seemed as if the boys were playing and toying with the Marines, making the Marine captains feel enraged. They didn't stand a chance against the three monsters and fell to the ground after minutes of fighting. Their bodies were all sore and beaten up. When the last Marine captain was about to drift into the abyss of unconsciousness, he caught their names. The next day when Dragon was given the newspaper, Dragon stilled. He saw the wanted posters of the boys laying in front of him. Not that anybody knows who they are, but it didn't help him to relax. Ivankov, who saw that, raised his eyebrow. "You know them?" Dragon wanted to laugh, but the situation didn't allow him. "Have you got any information from my sons?" Dragon asked instead, to which Eva sighed and nodded. "They will be here by noon." Chapter 17. When the trio mischief makers entered into Dragon's office to report what had happened, they were shown their posters. This made Luffy and Ace squeal in delight, while Sabo felt himself feeling guilty. "I'm sorry," Sabo bowed his head slightly, "I should have taken better care." Dragon shook his head. He wanted to know what had happened. What had happened? Sabo rubbed his temple and began answering. "The Marine base, G8, has a more clever captain than we had assumed. We don't know how, but he saw through our tricks, and the day when we were leaving he had us surrounded. We could have escaped before time, but I got careless." "Sabo, why are you taking my blame on yourself?" Luffy pouted. "It was me who wanted to help that kid." "Luffy, why the heck are you taking the blame then?" Ace questioned. "It was me who supported you. I should have seen it coming. I am the eldest brother and should be more responsible." "No," Sabo banged his hands on the desk. "It was my fault to not keep you both in control. I could have." "Enough," Dragon spoke. He liked how the brothers defended each other. It showed their love, but they shouldn't take blames or feel guilty. What is done is done. At least none of your faces are in the posters or your real names. Dragon said with a smile. "So, don't worry and be more careful the next time. Your reasons are not wrong, but your actions were reckless. Just be careful the next time. I don't want to lose any of you." The brothers nodded, each standing with their bounty posters in their hands. They left soon, after giving a full report of what had happened, and moved to their rooms. Ace pinned his bounty poster on his shelf and smirked. The bounty poster was not much for a beginning bounty, but he was fine with it. In the background, he could clearly see Luffy and Sabo. "Wanted dead or alive, Orange Wrath, cold 25 million. Luffy pinned his bounty poster near his desk. The bounty poster was the same as that of Ace, with his big brothers in the background. "Wanted dead or alive, Red Maniac, Syra 25 million. Sabo looked at his bounty poster nicely for the first time. He had never thought he would be getting a bounty. But the excitement which was radiating from his brothers spread to him too. He is glad that none of their faces are visible. "Wanted dead or alive, Blue Sly, Cyan 25 million. Pops, Yoi." The 1st Division captain yelled across the deck and transformed back to his original form and landed on Whitebeard's shoulder. Whitebeard laughed at the sheer excitement his son was showing. "What's up, son?" Whitebeard asked, and within a second a newspaper was shoved to his face. Whitebeard could see Marco's eyes shining, which made Thatch and Haruta stop in their tracks and look at what got their big brother riled up. "The ones who destroy the marine bases are found, Yoi." This caught the attention of almost everyone on the deck. They had been following the news of how the marine bases were falling and how some pirates were vanishing from piracy, and from their intel they only found that it was the same group that was doing it. They had even got to know how that group was playing pranks on the Marines and the reason for so many advertisements of washing machines, coffee makers, beds, wood, and whatnot. Marco showed the bounty poster, which only had the names of the culprits: Cole, Cyan, and Syra. The ones destroying marine bases found. The news was interesting. It talked about how the people speculated that they are pirates or revolutionaries and the many reasons they provided to support their answers. One of the main reasons for claiming them as pirates was that they stole treasure and weapons and disrupted the peace of the Marines, which was a pirate thing to do. The other reason for why they are revolutionaries was that they kept their identities hidden. But the Whitebeard pirates, especially their intelligence department, knew the untold truth. They stole important files from the bases, which were making them revolutionaries. The news even claimed them to be pirates who are working for revolutionaries. "What do you think they are, pirates or revolutionaries, Yoi?" Marco asked. "They can't be revolutionaries," Whitebeard spoke. "Maybe pirates." Whitebeard felt all eyes on him. He laughed. "They're cheeky brats, guararara." It was time when Dragon needed to let go of Ace. Ace wanted to make a name for himself in the whole world, and he wanted to show everyone that he was his own person and that he will surpass his father. So, he wanted to set sail. Dragon was more than happy to support his sons to fulfill their dreams. They were in the Fuchsia village. Dayton and the bandits and Makino were in the bar, with the ASL brothers and him celebrating his birthday of Ace. He was looking happy. Luffy presented Ace with an orange cowboy hat, with a frowning and a happy face on it, and also a red bead necklace which he got for free with the hat. Sabo presented Ace with a dagger that had a green sheath. Ace placed it on his left hip. Ace was wearing an open shirt, black shorts, and an orange belt with the letter A. Dragon provided him with 2 additional boxes. One had a log pose for Grand Line and another for the New World. He also gave him a white snail, to keep in contact with them. Ace was more than prepared for taking the world by storm. He waved his goodbye to the brothers and everyone, who wishes him luck in return. He opens his locket and fondly grazes the picture of his parents, who seem to wish him luck on his journey, and then his gaze goes to the three small kids, running behind each other. The picture of the three of them together, which the brothers decided to put in their lockets. Ace's smile widened as the ocean greets him with open arms. It was only Sabo and Luffy left in Baltigo, and Luffy was getting bored. He would pass his time playing with the little kids who were in Baltigo and sometimes sparring with Kuma and Ivankov. Dragon would help to train him in his fighting skills, teaching him all kinds of weapons. But Luffy loved to use his fists, but learning new things excited him, so why not? He would still go on missions with Sabo, and they would always be excited when they would leave their targets in utter chaos, leaving them wondering where the third one was. This made the Marines and the pirates alike antsy, believing that the third one will appear from thin air and attack them. This made the brothers roll on the floor with laughter every time. It was when the Spade Pirates were in Grand Line that they realized the truth that devil fruit users can't swim and their energy is sapped once in sea, which made them question why could Ace still stay in the water without losing his energy. Though he really wasn't able to swim, but he didn't sink even. Deuce was trying to comprehend Ace, when he remembered how in storms, harsh waves would deliberately avoid their ship.
There were barely any strong currents on their way to Saboti. Whenever they would question it to Ace himself, he would just grin, and would not say a thing. The Spade Pirates felt that their captain was getting special treatment from nature. But Ace knew why he was favored, and even if he was never favored, he would continue to look after Luffy and never make him feel lonely. He would protect him even with his own life.
Luffy and Sabo were getting antsy when they didn't get a single call from Ace after he had left Shanks. They tried to contact Shanks, Sabo doing the speaking, and asked Shanks if he knows something. That was when they got to know that Ace had gone to fight Whitebeard. Sabo facepalmed himself. Ace was strong but reckless. There was no way he could fight off Whitebeard right now. He can for sure defeat the commanders, but not freaking Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world. Do you think Ace is safe? Sabo heard Luffy questioning. He could hear the worry lying in those words and bit his inner cheeks. He wanted to say that Ace would be fine. He is strong, but couldn't help but feel that something might happen if they don't rescue that idiot. Ace opened his eyes when he found himself wrapped in sea stone chains. He felt a headache coming his way already. He sighed and broke the cuffs easily with advanced armament hockey. Why was he in sea stone cuffs in the first place? Ace thought. Then his mind reminded him that he was fighting Jimbei in the New World. Then he was face to face with Whitebeard, all exhausted but standing. He created a firewall for his crew to escape, whose presence he could find below him. Then he was unconscious. So, that means he is taken as a prisoner in the Whitebeard's ship. Ace frowned at his luck. His hands reached for his pockets to find his snail, but he froze in an instant. His pockets were empty and his snail was taken. How long did he pass out?
You are awake, Yoy. Ace saw the 1st Division commander of the Whitebeard pirates appear in front of him. Ace tried to remain calm, but how can he when he was cuffed with sea stone? Though it didn't work most of the time on him, but still. I didn't think you'd be awake already, Yoy. Marco the Phoenix was looking at Ace with eyes full of hostility. How long was I out? Ace asked as he saw Marco approach him. He kept his eyes on the man and saw him checking his vitals and the wounds. His head was paining, and when he lifted his hands to his head, he could feel the bandages. He frowned at that. Sabo and Luffy would probably be worried if they had called and he wouldn't have picked up.
The blonde looked at him, but still didn't answer. Oyaji would like to talk to you. I suggest you leave the questions to us, Yoy. The voice was filled with hostility, and Ace argued with himself about why was he still here. But his crew was here. If he had to leave, then he had to rescue them. But why was he here in the first place? He only wanted to spar with the man who went toe to toe with his dad. That was the only reason he had wanted to face Whitebeard and not to be held with such hostility. He sat up and saw Whitebeard entering the room, and he freaking saw and heard the white snail ringing. It could be none other than Sabo and Luffy. They must be completely worried. Part of me doesn't want to let you answer this call, but the other part of me wants to see just what you'll say to the people on the other side of the line. So go ahead, answer the call. Ace saw Whitebeard pick up the snail and place it in Ace's hands. The snail quickly took the shape of Shanks' facial expression. He clicked his tongue and licked his lips, preparing himself for the lecture. Ace, you there? Ace hummed and looked at the snail, keeping an eye on Whitebeard. Shanks sighed. Then why didn't you pick up? I am in a situation. Ace eyed at Whitebeard, noting his every movement. He couldn't even focus on the background noises cause of him. The little brat was about to tell your dad when you didn't pick up the calls for 3 days, and you know what will happen if he comes searching for you. Ace hummed. Tell me, where are you? Kidnapped by the Whitebeards? Ace told, or more like questioned himself. But that was true. Tell me if dad is on the way? The snail shook his head. Nah, we managed to stop him out of it. Well, I tried. But I wouldn't be sure if your brothers would sit tight. Ace winced at it. Shanks, can you tell them I'm fine and I'll call as soon as I get the opportunity? He could see the snail nod. "Is the old man there with you?" Shanks asked. "Hello, brat," Whitebeard spoke for the first time. Shanks hummed, "Why did you capture Ace? I mean, I know you would want to kidnap Ace and make him your son, but from what I can think is that you outright captured him." "'Cause of his white snail," Whitebeard spoke, "which are only found with the Navy spies." Shanks winced at that. "You gotta improve your knowledge, old man." Shanks looked serious. "There are other people too who can get those snails, and as far as I know, Ace would love to destroy a marine base rather than be one of their dogs." Shanks continued, "Be glad you didn't do something you couldn't reverse, old man. I'm not getting to be spilling his secrets, as I'm sure you better know by now. If something were to happen to Ace, you wouldn't know when Moby would be destroyed," Shanks said casually, making a tick mark on Whitebeard. Whitebeard eyed Ace curiously. What connections would this boy have to make the other Yonko spill those words? "And Ace, make sure to call them, otherwise I don't know if Moby would exist by tomorrow." Ace hummed at it and the call was disconnected. Ace rested the small snail on his leg and looked at Whitebeard still standing next to his bed. He had also seen the way both Marco and Whitebeard had relaxed as soon as Shanks's voice filtered through the snail. Their worries were laid to rest, as Shanks would never work together with Marines, not after everything that it had cost him before. Looking at Whitebeard, he could see he was trying to connect some dots. "Your bounty poster says you are Portgas, but I don't think that it is the name you were born with." Ace glared at the old man in front of him. "Why the heck should I tell you?" Ace growled and made his way out of the infirmary and straight to the room where his crew was. Chapter 18. Ace felt the people on his way stare at him and take precautions. But Ace didn't mind. His mind only told him to check on his crew. As he was getting nearer and nearer, he felt another presence lurking in the room, where his crew was. He didn't wait and barged in. He saw how a man was there inquiring his crew, and his crew looked bandaged up. They were not this bad. The last time he saw them, Ace saw red. Ace gritted his teeth and threw the man who was there across the room and growled. He stood protectively in front of the half-beaten Deuce and saw from the corner of his eyes his crew shifting and trying to stand beside him. "What did you do?" Ace hissed, and his conqueror's hockey slammed on the Moby, while his crew felt a warm, cozy blanket wrap them. Ace felt Marco rush to him and stood in front of the brown-haired man. "We were just inquiring about the snails, Yoy," Marco said, defending his brother. Ace growled at that and spoke the next words vehemently, "And this is how you do." He saw food laying on a table and bandages sprawled on the other table. There also lay disinfectants. "I was just helping," he saw the man speak for the first time. "Leave us alone." Ace glared at them and saw them leave the room. He can't be sure if the food is poisoned or not. He turned to his crew, who looked confused and a bit scared. "Report." Ace spoke to Deuce, who nodded his head. "After the fight, when you lost consciousness, Whitebeard took you to this ship," Deuce spoke. Meeting his eye with Ace's, "We followed the ship, but we were crushed and brought here." He sighed. "Then the next day, when your Den Den Mushi started ringing, their suspicion grew. So, they held us here and inquired us if we are government spies." Deuce spat the last word. "The bandages?" Ace asked, checking the conditions of each and every crewmate. "Battle wounds and nothing," Skull spoke. Ace nodded and plopped on the floor. His arms holding his knees and his face was buried in it. "I'll surpass the Pirate King. Someone stronger than me? I won't acknowledge that. Our target is Whitebeard, Edward Newgate. I'll race up the stairs of this great ocean until I'm at the top." "I'm sorry," Ace spoke, his voice nowhere near his own. His crew looked at him in worry. "I feel awful. You guys are all being held captive because of me." "Huh? Hey, we're the ones who lost. Even though you gave us an escape, we still got caught." "I'm the one who lost," Ace hissed, not meeting his eyes with his crew. He had disappointed them. He was nowhere near Whitebeard's power and still challenged him. He hadn't heard his dad's and Shanks's warning. "Are the rumors true? About you wishing to fight Whitebeard?" "Ace, you are not ready for him. I'm your captain, that's why." Ace lifted his head and with his steel gaze looked at his crew. "I need to take out Whitebeard." "Ace, if he's really gonna keep me on this ship, then I'll make full use of the opportunity. I'll make him regret keeping us on this ship." Ace's eyes burned with fury. Ace was out on the deck, taking in everything that might help him fight off the crew. He was thankful for Dad, that he learned stealth and was able to hide in plain vision and gather information. He sneaked into the galley and took a piece of bread and stuffed it in his mouth. He needed energy if he wants to fight Whitebeard. He could see the waters raging on the main ship harshly, but that didn't make him falter his steps at all. He had traveled with Luffy, with those harsh rocking waves, shouting in glee and excitement as they went forward to raid another marine base or another pirate ship. He is not a newbie to these waves. "Welcome aboard our ship, the Moby," a voice came, which he had heard. He turned around and saw the 4th Division commander standing in front of him. He glared at the man. "We didn't know that you weren't a government dog." He could see the genuine regret in the voice of the commander in front of him. Ace stepped forward, glaring at Thatch. "Let me ask you, is it really alright to keep me on this ship without any chains or shackles?" Ace felt himself laughing, as though shackles could contain him. Even sea stone doesn't affect him much and he could easily break free out of it. Thatch just grinned at him in response. The room was dark like it is supposed to be at night. Whitebeard lay sleeping, snoring loudly and oblivious of the second person in the room. Ace stood in the shadows of the room face stone cold, hiding his presence and using the lessons of Shelf from his dad. He raised his dagger in his hand to assassinate the man. Ace rushed forward, without making a single noise, to land the killing blow to the old man, but was punched out of the cabin. The wall of the cabin made a human-size hole and he landed on the railing of the Moby. Ace gritted his teeth at the failed attempt. His nose started bleeding, making him hide it from the people who were on the deck. He got weird looks from the people, not that he minded. Ace stood up and was about to head back to sleep. He could clearly see the Emperor's crew underestimating him. He had just tried to take their captain's head and those people are ignoring him and moreover advising him to look out and saying that their pops tosses around in the night. What the heck? Attacking at night, are we? He saw a man approach him. The same name who was there when Ace had barged in. No matter your methods, you're far from being able to take out pops. Ace stood up. In every pirate crew, the captain is the boss. But since I got here, I've only heard you call him one thing. Pops. You're a weird pirate crew. Ace didn't even notice himself swaying until he hit the deck. Hey, you can't even stand, we're going to the sick bay. Ace blacked out due to the lack of injury and the loss of blood. Thatch brought him to Deuce who was working in the infirmary or more like reading books on anatomy, and handed Ace to Deuce. He already likes the feral kid and wants him to be his brother, but after their accusations, even he would find it hard to accept anyone. The freckled teen poked his head from the side watching Whitebeard drink without a care in the world. Using his flames, Ace propelled his body sideways, avoiding his enemy's first nonchalant hit. His fiery fist was caught by a large palm but he launched himself off his foe before he could get batted away. He landed on the deck and immediately sprang back, not giving his opponent the time to think. Use your body against bigger commanders to your advantage, Dad had told him, when he was defeated by Kuma continuously. He shot wall of fire at the Yonko, who twitched, momentarily blinded by the fire. He felt the air tremor and turned to flames, the lack of solid form negating Whitebeard's devil fruit. Dodging the swipe of the man's Bacento and shooting a plume of flame in his enemy's face, he twisted in the air taking out his dagger from his pocket. Coating the weapon with a mixed layer of armament and Conqueror's Haki, which was an element of surprise for Whitebeard since he had not used Haki in Grand Line, he lunged onto Whitebeard who was about to use his arms to protect his open neck. He brought his leg down with all his strength bashing his enemy's arm out of the way. But before he could bring the dagger near the old man's Conqueror Haki clashed with Owen, splitting the clouds above them. They danced on the deck, deflecting each other's attack with practiced ease, but the opening which Ace had gotten was nowhere present now. You are a feisty one. Whitebeard smirked like he was playing a game not in a battle. Ace gritted his teeth in anger and that was all needed to lose his concentration. I'll make you regret keeping me on this ship, Ace growled and lunged onto Whitebeard without thinking. A part of his brain was screaming for him to pay attention and Sabo's and Dragon's voice were clear in his mind. Never let your anger control you in your fights. But it was late and he felt himself being thrown in the water. His breath felt no-creedied himself to splash in the water, head first. But to his surprise, he was caught by two hands. His eyes widened when he realized who was holding him. Ace, you feral cat, Sabo spoke with a hint of scolding, but it was majorly anger towards Whitebeard. How many times do I have to tell you to not give in to your anger in your fights? Come on, Saw Cyan. Ace frowned as he felt Sabo and him jump on the deck. Luffy was quick to give a small hug to Ace and stood beside him. Ace is in the middle and Sabo and Luffy are on his sides. What happened? Luffy asked finally. His voice was too calm for his brother's liking. He glared at the deck and spotted the 1st, 4th, 12th, and 16th Division commanders.
Everyone on the deck was shocked. Even the person on the crew nest was completely shocked. He hasn't seen any ship approach them. And the fact that they would have swam their way to their ship seemed impossible. They were in the waters of the New World, not any Blues or Grand Line. Shanks told you were kidnapped by Whitebeard, Sabo spoke as he eyed the deck and took in the strong fighters they need to deal with. The people in the Moby felt themselves being caught in a chokehold, unable to move a step. Whitebeard noticed the controlled burst of Conqueror's Haki which threatened to snatch the breath of his sons, coming from the youngest. It didn't let anyone fall unconscious but kept them at the brink, choking them brutally. He used his own Conqueror's Haki to lower the chokehold but could feel no effect. He himself felt the Haki trying to crumble and crush him, but he wouldn't bow to it. So, he chose to stay silent for a while and observe the sight in front of him. You both didn't need to rescue me. I'm fine, Ace argued. Says the guy who got himself kidnapped by an emperor. Sabo scoffed, making Ace frown again. The winds were picking speed, the sky was pitch dark due to the dark black clouds, as if it was not afternoon, but nighttime. The lightning violently crashed nearby and some cackled in the sky forming webs, showing the brothers with Hood perfectly.
The winds made it hard for the people to remain standing on the deck as it threatened to slash their throats open, and in the midst of this, the pirates tried to move, tried to run, but failed pathetically. No one was allowed to move. Luffy and Sabo eyed Ace carefully, considering his wounds. They were feeling enraged with every new wound their eyes fell on. Ace wanted to get into a hole and never get out of it, due to the gaze of his brothers. Damn it, he is the oldest brother, not the youngest, and he doesn't need them to save his sorry ass. That was when Whitebeard's Naginata pounded on the deck, screaming for attention. What do I owe Cyane and Syra the pleasure of visiting Moby? Whitebeard asked. He couldn't let his guard down in front of these rookies, who felt more like kids, especially Syra. He could hear the childish voice, that was filled with rage aimed at them. He still didn't have any idea where Cole could be, so he was on his guard completely. Did you think you will live after kidnapping our Nichan? Syra tilted his head and a bolt of lightning crashed nearby the Moby, making some pirates scream. The waves were raging violently as if they would tear apart the ship with a single command. The rain fell on the pirates like marbles spilled from a box from the sky, ruthlessly pricking the pirates. But above all this, Syra looked way too calm for the situation, making Ace and Sabo feel themselves flinch. The pirates who heard the little one speak gasped. Ace, their big brother. Hey, Ace squeaked. I am older than you too. I can handle myself. You both don't need to save my ass. Ace looked serious, making Luffy and Sabo frown at him. How do you think you will defeat the Emperor's crew, Ace? Cyane asked Ace seriously. Were you not thrown off the board just now? Luffy's cold voice seeped through the Moby. The avalanche of rain started to pick speed. Before Ace could speak, it was Whitebeard who spoke. I want to make him my son. Whitebeard stood his ground and looked at the boys with hoods. If they want to make Ace his son and give his sons a new brother, then he realized that they have to stay in this storm outside. But why were Cyane, Syra and Ace not getting wet at all? Their faces were not at all visible. Marco was standing there, trying to speak, but Whitebeard shut him down. He could feel the danger that Akagami had spoken to him in the Den Mushi coming from the boys. They were not ordinary, and he could feel the vast haki contained in the three kids, even Ace, who had left his haki loose. It was the first time Whitebeard noticed the presence of Ace, so it was definitely shocking. I have no interest in becoming your son, Ace yelled, turning to face Whitebeard, eyes all serious. Syra looked at Whitebeard's eyes and felt the sincerity in his words. But he can't keep Ace with him, without his confirmation, however nice he is. Ace, pack up. Syra's voice came cold. We are leaving. Ace turned to Luffy and then to Sabo, looking helpless. Sabo shook his head. Be thankful that you didn't do the worst. It was Cyane who spoke, otherwise Moby would have become just history. Cyane. Ace shouted. I can handle my problems. Ace then glared at Luffy. I don't need my baby brother's help. I'll defeat Whitebeard. I swear. Ace shouted and the lightning crackled again. The thunder made the pirates shut their ears, to prevent their eardrums from bursting. Sabo turned to look at Luffy, whose instincts were always correct. Luffy nodded slowly and with a flick of his fingers, which was hardly noticeable to anyone except Whitebeard and Ace and Sabo. The avalanche of rain, the cackling thunders, the dark black clouds in the sky and the raging waves vanished. Give us a call, you idiot, we were worried sick about you. Cyane bonked Ace's head, making him frown. The pirates felt themselves collapsing on the ground, trying to breathe after being held by the chokehold and hit by the pricking rain. Syra sat on the railing, his legs crossed over the other, eyeing everyone present on the deck. He could feel the goodness in them. They won't harm his brother at least, so he wasn't worried anymore and returned to his bright self. Ace grinned sheepishly at his brothers. Sorry, I forgot. That was when the tense situation was broken and Luffy looked at Ace and Sabo, pouting, and his stomach growled. I'm hungry. The pirates who heard that felt themselves blink their eyes. They could clearly see the 360-degree flip in the attitude of the youngest. Ace hugged Luffy softly and brought him near him. Sabo kept an eye on the pirates, who were visibly shocked. He felt himself smirking. What would happen if they knew Ace's Cole? Sabo mentally chuckled at that. We will be on land in an hour, Lou, Sabo said in a whisper, making the youngest smile. Hey, Syra spoke and looked at the old man. Mind if we hitch a ride to the nearby island? Whitebeard felt himself chuckle at that and laughed. Gurarara, Whitebeard laughed, coming to my ship, then threatening me and my sons, and then asking me for a ride? Yosh, Syra's enthusiastic voice came up. She, Whitebeard liked it. Become my sons. Whitebeard spoke without hesitation, making Cyane and Syra frown. Sorry, Cyane spoke, but we have our own dreams to fulfill. Be happy with Ace. Hey, Ace yelled at Sabo and punched him, making Sabo grin in return. Chapter 19. Ace introduced his brothers to his crew. The spades were left gaping like a fish, trying to find the right words to speak, but none were getting any. Crew, meet my brothers, Ace spoke and pointed at his brothers. Then, he went on to introduce everyone one by one. Syra pouted at that. You never spoke about us to your crew? Ace grinned.
They didn't ask. Ace blamed his crew members. Come on, Ace. Cyan shook his head. You could get a good excuse than this. Ace shamelessly grinned at that. From the corner of his eyes, Sabo could see the division commanders surrounding them, all looking at them with curious gazes. He could see Luffy smiling at them and the commanders trying to approach them. Sabo didn't like attention, but he guessed it couldn't be helped.
How did you find us? The first question landed on their plate to answer. Sabo sighed, and from the corner of his eyes, he can already see Ace glaring at the commanders for indulging in their conversation. Shanks told us that Ace was on Moby. Cyan replied with a nonchalant shrug. At least a part of his answer is correct. The commanders felt that they won't get any more answers from the teen, so the next question was presented. How do you know Shanks? It was Izo, the 16th Division commander, who asked. He could see Luffy beaming up to answer, to which he gave Luffy a go-ahead signal. Shanks is my friend, Syra chirped, bouncing on his place, and was about to climb the mast when Ace caught him quickly. He knew what Luffy would do. Being a monkey, he would try to dangle upside down from it, leading his hood to fall down. Luffy frowned at first, but then he realized the mistake he was about to make, so he pouted innocently. How did you get here so fast? Why didn't we spot you? It was Speedjiru who asked. Before Sabo could speak, Syra spoke up, Mom. Ace and Sabo shared a look. Ace took Luffy and hugged him and whispered or bribed him with meat, and Sabo answered the raised eyebrows of the commanders. Syra's mom helped us with her submarine. If you are here, then where is Cole? It was Thatch who asked, making Luffy and Sabo stifle a peal of laughter. Ace was feeling himself getting red. Whether it was from anger or embarrassment, they didn't know. It's none of your business. Cyan spoke, changing from a laughing teen to a teen with ice dripping from his voice. The pirates surrounding them shivered at the plain display of coldness. How do you know Ace? Another commander asked, which was Haruta. He would have enough guts to speak after the icy voice that Cyan was giving. Sabo gave a tight smile, which was the only thing visible from the cloak, hiding his face and eyes perfectly. I sincerely warn you not to ask anything which we don't want to answer. The commanders were frozen, and even Ace's crew, Spades, were a bit terrified. But Sabo doesn't care. Sabo could shout out of his lungs that Ace is their brother and he would forever be there for him, but the commanders didn't need to know. They didn't need to make their headgears turn at the very revelation that Ace is their brother. He couldn't let this questioning go on, and it really feels frustrating. He checked the horizon and could feel an island nearing. Cyan felt Ace looking at him, and he himself was feeling weary with the commanders getting into their personal space. Sabo nodded once at Ace, who turned to Deuce and muttered something quietly. Sabo looked at Luffy and pointed at the island. Years of staying together had led them to understand each other in a way that no one can. He can easily tell how Luffy's slow nod before had meant potential danger. How Ace's uneasiness and lack of complete anger while being surrounded by enemy pirates meant something more than what Ace is showing. How the brothers huddled together meant a lack of a safe place in the unknown territory they were standing. Syra recoiled back to the mast, stretching his limbs enough to catch Ace and Cyan and reach the island a bit faster. They rocketed to the nearby island in a serious mood, which was so unlike Luffy. Whenever they would be rocketed by their little brother, there would be sounds of laughter following them, but the lack of it only gave them an edge over the inner musings that they were about to encounter. Landing on their legs, with minimal damage, was a blessing for them with Luffy's reckless moves. But it would have to do if they want to be away from a manipulative pirate captain. The island was a bit too similar to the forests of Dawn Island, with its large animals. The island was mostly covered in forest with no signs of human life, which would be good for restocking food for the Whitebeards, meaning it would give them time to settle whatever damage had already happened. The walk to the edge of the forest was quiet but comfortable. At the end of the shoreline, Luffy spoke, "Let's race till we see any food." And with that they were off, running with the winds and the mountain tracks, which they had literally grown into. The excited energy burned within them, as they hunted animals and feasted on them. With Ace getting his fill after who knows how long, they were down for discussion. They have already discarded their capes and thrown them in his backpack, which he has been needing to keep cuz with Luffy troubles always came, which means medicines. Though, Sabo would not have any other way. What do you feel about the Whitebeards? Sabo inquired Ace carefully, who was scowling and trying to find his own answers. If Ace would be being himself, then there was no doubt that the moment he would question regarding the Whitebeard pirates, Ace would have been spitting curses at the old man. Yep, the damage is done, Sabo thought, rubbing his temples. I don't know. Ace was looking at the ground all the while, and Sabo would give Luffy a point at keeping quiet and paying attention for once. I only wanted to gauge my strength. I want to surpass my dad. Ace looked at Sabo with eyes filled with determination, which was crumbling ever slowly. Sabo could always read Ace like an open book, and he is really thankful for that. That's the only reason I wanted to fight with Whitebeard. Did you get a fair fight? Luffy's face was expressionless. His straw hat titling in just the right angle, making the ever cherry boy look serious to the degree that no one thought he was capable. Ace shook his head and scowled. I had only fought with Jinbei for a day or two without a break, and right when my fight was over, the Whitebeard pirates were standing before me, ready to accept my challenge. Ace bit his lips, glaring at the ground. I was tired and injured, but I wanted to fight. And you lost. Sabo finished it. Ace nodded at that. Ace had lost in an unfair fight. He was tired, exhausted, and probably hungry if he fought Jinbei for a day or two. And that's truly cheap coming from Whitebeard. Do you want to be his son, Ace? Sabo asked his next question. He needed to be slow with Ace, or his firecracker of the brother will burst off in anger and he won't get any answer. Do you want to be in his crew? There was some hesitation before Ace shook his head. The hesitation was a clear answer to what Sabo had been looking for from Ace. Do you want to be free and sail without anyone telling you what to do or not? Sabo played with his words carefully. He needs to break Ace out of his trance before it's too late. I want to be free. I want to make a name for myself. The fire in Ace's eyes was back, though a bit dimmer. Sabo turned to Luffy and Luffy nodded. Luffy could use his Conqueror's Haki in many ways which many can't. Luffy let out a burst of King's Haki on Ace, who was looking completely confused, but it was required. Ace was out like a candle the next moment. I was right then, huh? Sabo asked Luffy. Yep, the old white banana mustache man had been using Conqueror's Haki on Ace to make him join his crew. Luffy stated, and Sabo felt a burning anger course through him. They sat there in silence, as much silence on the part of Luffy, who started playing with the beetles ards him. Ace woke after 5 minutes and was glaring at him and Luffy. Why did you do that, asshole? Ace specially told to Sabo, as he was the one to tell Luffy to do what he did. Ace knew he was in for a worst headache you did. Sabo rubbed his temples. Now, wait for a second. Sabo caught Ace's fists and saw Luffy not paying attention to their conversation, which was frankly expected. How do you feel about joining the Whitebeard pirates right now? Ace scowled at him. Why will I join that crazy bastard's crew? Sabo grinned and saw the gears of Ace's ant-sized brain, which Sabo really claimed to be not present there, turned slowly, and realization struck him hard. Conqueror's Haki. The will of the king. Sabo looked at Ace, who uttered the words with horror-filled eyes. Sabo gave a sharp nod to him. You know it right, what I and Luffy were meaning to say now? Luffy was also looking at him with a serious understanding, as much akin for him leaving the small group of beetles he had managed to gather in his shirt. Bloody hell. That bastard, asshole, motherfucker. The colorful swear words from Ace continued on, making Sabo cover Luffy's ear. The little shit was giggling. Seriously, Ace can even make a sailor blush with his vast colorful vocabulary. That asshole was forcing me into submission, while I was starving, hungry, and wounded. Ace gritted his teeth. Ace cradled his hands on his temples, with a fierce ache raging in it. They all have learned and experienced the effects of Conqueror's Haki from the best people. The King's Haki can make people do what the Conqueror orders, and that was a lesson that was ingrained deep within them since they were 12. How could he not feel that? You were challenging Whitebeard for a one-on-one captain's match to gauge your strength, and he set Jinbei on you and used that to ambush you when you were tired. Sabo stated his point. How did the Whitebeard know when to come? They could have waited for you to recover, to heal, to eat, if they wanted to give you a fair fight. But no, they refused it. They are pirates. I know, they can use dirty tricks, but using King's Haki to force me into submission? I won't forgive that. Ace clenched his jaws and looked in the direction in which Moby was. Ace was pissed. No, he was beyond pissed. He had just fucking spent 1.5 fucking days fighting Jinbei and had won. And then the Whitebeard pirates had the fucking audacity to dock right on the beach Ace was fighting. Ace was lost for words. The first days on the crew were not at all exciting. The Whitebeards showed their true colors by kidnapping him and then beating up his crew. Then, the worst of all, using King's Haki to make his will crumble slowly. Denying him to even leave the ship, even when he clearly told them that he doesn't want to join them. All he wanted to be is free and make a name for himself. He can't let Whitebeard take his freedom away from him. He won't let the bastard win. The old and canny enough pirate must have been hitting him with his will since the moment he had asked him to be his son. A part of Ace wanted to blame himself for being weak, but he shoved that part in the promise of getting more stronger. He won't let it happen ever again. Shanks had told that Whitebeard was a good pirate, who followed pirate rules. But where did those fucking rules go when they attacked him? Beat his crew, kept them separated until his brothers came aboard. He is not a feral animal to be trapped in someone's chains or be branded by another's name and claimed as theirs. Even when he was a revolutionary, he was given the freedom to do whatever he wanted. Dad never minded it. He just warned them when they took hard missions. He permitted them to sail as one, to enjoy the freedom the sea gave them. Yeah, he had someone from whom he was required to take permission, but that someone never branded him or forced him to do things. Dragon merrily gave him a hand when he was in need, when he could have lost Sabo and maybe Luffy. He gave him a way to be stronger, to fight against the world. He had not raised any eyebrows at his dreams, hadn't been upset or thrown him off due to his rude behavior, and hell, he showed him the truth about his biological dad, whom he would have hated forever otherwise. He had helped him see the truth and not question his existence to the limit he used to do. He doesn't want another person to call dad. He already has Roger and Dragon and they give them a good amount of freedom and love. He won't be branded as anybody's slave. He will be free and not under anyone. That's what they all have sworn since they were kids. He will defeat the Yonko one day, if not this day. He will become strong enough to do that, he swears. Portgas d'Ace was not a hostage for his crew to follow and join the Whitebeards. Not some sort of wild animal forced into being a tame pet. He was free and will be until he fucking dies. And while he wouldn't for sure want to become king of the pirates, he'll still fight Luffy because that was what Luffy expected. Ace still planned on becoming strong. Maybe he would become an emperor of the sea if not pirate king. But he would not be a part of someone else's crew. That he was bloody hell sure. Chapter 20. On Moby, Whitebeard was thinking. Some clear facts to him were: Ace is Roger's son and his brothers are the infamous 3 Cs. So that means they're also Roger's son, right? But how can the smallest be of Roger's? If he had to take a guess, he will say that Ace looked no bigger than an 18-year-old teen. And if he has to deduct from the voices of the other 2, then he will say Cyan is almost the same age as Ace. So, they could be twins, but Syra cannot be 18. He seemed 13 to 14 years old just from his voice. Also, if he is right and is making the right assumptions, then Cole is Ace. The first people to rescue Ace are Cyan and Syra. They are apparently closer somehow and it completely makes sense. When Cole disappeared from the news, Fire Fist Ace appeared, and it can't be too much of a coincidence. When the brothers landed on Moby, the storms had raged, which is not an actual surprise, considering it is the New World. But the most surprising fact was how the storm vanished after the small flick of a finger from Syra. Maybe it was a coincidence. There were abnormal waves, which always accompanied Moby since Ace had landed on their ship, but they are in New World, so it's not a huge problem. He was getting one theory set in his mind though: the brothers have devil fruits. One is Ace who has Mera Mera no Mi. The other is Cyan who can have Mizu Mizu no Mi, to control the waves, but that doesn't fit cause Cyan was not on board when Ace was. Still, he could blame that on the New World weather. The youngest one could have Arashi no Mi. But he isn't sure after he saw the youngest's limbs stretch when they made their escape hours ago. Could it be that he has eaten 2 devil fruits? But that is impossible. Whitebeard has lived for several ages and has seen things that are completely ridiculous and abnormal. This is not something that can be true. Above all, Whitebeard only knew one thing for sure: he will make the trio join Whitebeard pirates. Cause he wants to protect them and give them his unconditional love. He laughed on his own, making Marco, who was standing there from the beginning, shake his head. Pops, yoy, Whitebeard hummed his son to continue. I don't like how Ace's crew has been acting, yoy. We separated them 2 days ago and they have all bundled together again, yoy. I don't think they will be joining, yoy. Marco stated. And with Ace's brothers on the deck, the possibility of them joining is thinning a lot, yoy. They have tried their best to show Ace that his crew isn't strong and he will be happy if he joins them, but the attacks Ace was using on Whitebeard, he really didn't like it. Ace's fighting style was a mixture of many. There was a hint to the marine fighting style, the raw fighting style which he was using, and the perfect assassinating skills. It was like Ace was a spy. Can that be possible? Guararararara, Whitebeard laughed. Don't worry, Marco. Once the brat sees how much we care for him, he will stay. And soon his crew and his brothers will follow. Marco could only nod at Pop's words. Whitebeard soon noticed familiar hockeys coming from the side of the ship and turns out the little firecrackers have returned. Guararararara, Whitebeard offered his warm, soft grin to the boys, which had Ace glaring at him vehemently. They were like children to him, and from their expressions, feral children. Welcome back my so. Pack up, Ace said looking at his crew, who were on the deck, interrupting and ignoring Whitebeard completely. Aye, Captain, Ace's crew chorused and hurried to the room in which they were bundled together in. Whitebeard was not liking how things were turning. Where is Piece of Spadil? Ace glared at him. Where is my ship? Ace hissed like a feral cat, who had been left out of his cage after making him so angry. Whitebeard frowned at the change. What, not gonna take my head? He asked in an amused tone, trying to keep the brat on the Moby. He liked the brat and his brothers and wants him. And what he sets eyes on, he gets it. For you to use your bullshitting conqueror's hockey on me? To fucking tame me? Ace roared at him and the people on the deck stared wide-eyed at the teen standing on the railing with his brothers at his side, for his curse words and the use of conqueror's hockey. Whitebeard was caught and he knew it. But hell, he will give up. He is a Yonko. He will not give up on the boy. He will make him his son. He will take his revenge on Roger for taking Odin from his crew and never returning him by taking his son. My Ni-chan is not an object for you to take revenge on him, Syra said in his cold voice. The lightning crackled making some of the ship residents scream at the extra loud thundering. But above all of this, the little brat's voice was clearly heard. Whitebeard narrowed his eyes and tried checking if he has said his thoughts too loud, But no, he hasn't. How did the little brat know what he was thinking? He is an interesting piece. He should become his son, along with Cyan. How about the spades and the 3 C's run wild under my name? No hand shall touch a hair on your heads with me as your father, Whitebeard said kindly, watching as the brothers, except Ace who was scowling and glaring darkly at him, just continued to frown at him. Just give us time to prove we are not trying to take your freedom away, Whitebeard suggested. Stay and try out this life, just until the next island. Listen Whitebeard, I am not someone you can add to your pile of pitiful fucking family, Ace glared angrily and he meant every word. You can't play with your family as much as you want. But I am not one of you and never will be. How many of these pirates will really stay if the captain is dead? How many will really give their lives for their captain? In a crew of thousands of men and women, how many have ill in their minds or are simply hiding and taking the protection the Yonko is offering? He won't fall into this type of trap and provide his back for the pirates to attack him. Once his heritage or any high-class information is leaked about him, they will fucking leave him or hand him to the Navy or kill him. Why will he in his right mind accept that? He won't give in to Whitebeard's will ever. He has his own will and he will make the old pirate crumble under it, someday. Papa can protect us better than you, old man, Syra retorted. He was looking like he was about to thrash Whitebeard if only he could. It only further amused Whitebeard, for such a young boy to look so fearless. Papa is the best and no one can replace him. You don't know a thing about us, Whitebeard. We will leave the ship with the spades and there is no stopping us. Cyan spoke with a tight feral smile on his lips. I'll leave with my crew, you wanted or not, Ace yelled. But you can't leave my ship without my permission, brats. Whitebeard glared with the same intensity as the boys and his voice rumbled through the deck of Moby. His conqueror's hockey clashed with the fire brat and was about to overwhelm him until his brothers joined him. Ace couldn't even deny his brother's help at that moment. They have clearly told him that they will interfere if they feel like it, and Ace had accepted it, after some grumbling. But he will defeat Whitebeard on his own. He will make his dad proud and show that he hadn't wasted his years in the revolutionary base as a sitting duck. Who the hell are you to stop me? You motherfucker. I will leave the ship on my own fucking wish, Ace shouted at the old man, threatening him to play any cheap tricks up in his sleeves, and it won't turn good. He will burn down the ship to the sea. He would never work for a man who doesn't consider his choices, he would never work under anyone. And if you don't, I swear my words weren't a joke when I said Moby will be history, Cyan said with an icy cold voice, mixed with his conqueror's hockey, which he rarely uses. His hands fiddled with his weapon pointing the Yonko to dare do anything rash. They were facing a Yonko and they needed Whitebeard's side. All they needed to do was escape with the Spade pirates and never turn back until they were stronger to face the Whitebeard pirates. You are threatening my sons and daughters, Whitebeard pointed out angrily, with hockey clashing with the glares. The waves were raging below, swaying the ship dangerously. The bolts of lightning never stopped coming. They were falling dangerously close to the ship. The rain hit on the board as if it wanted to kill every single pirate on the deck. The wind was making even the heavy crew members lose their footing. Above all, Whitebeard stood. Even if he was an old man and sick, he won't give in to the wills of the three combined even. Even the brats stood on the railing, never falling due to the swaying of the ocean. Amid this, Ace's crew came out of the deck and Ace created a protective ring of fire around them. So, no Whitebeard's pirate can even imagine approaching them. Ace was fuming, he knew it. But controlling his free will? Chaining him down? Snatching his freedom? Whitebeard didn't make a good choice since he decided to do that. He will face his rage, he promises himself. In a week, we fight, Ace declared, hopping off the ship of the angry Yonko. His crew followed him obediently, with a smirk on their faces. If you do any more funny business, it won't be good for you, Cyrus spoke with his calm voice, which was enough to make some pirates on the deck shiver. If you know what's good for your crew, you won't follow us, Cyan spoke, leaping out of the ship with Syra in tow, and the abnormal weather resided after a few good minutes. The pirates on the deck were glaring at the three brats who threatened them. They were unable to do anything as the brats clashed with their captain. It was like the same invisible force when Syra and Cyan had arrived at Moby, which kept them from speaking and made them choke. Whitebeard stood there angrily, like a child who just lost his favorite toys. He watched the Spade pirates and Syra and Cyan vanish from the beach and head to the jungle. He sat on his chair drinking sake, huffing in between. Pops, Yoi, Marco said softly, placing himself on his captain's shoulders. I agree with a part of them. We shouldn't use hockey to make the brat join us, Yoi. I overdid it, huh, Marco? Whitebeard said slowly, to which Marco only nodded his head. The Spade pirates sat in a circle surrounding the Bourne fire at the opposite end of the island, far away from the Moby. They haven't liked their time on the Whitebeard ship at all. They were once beaten up by the Whitebeard pirates badly, but this time they have their captain and they won't lose. They will fight the Whitebeard if it means they will get their freedom back. Sabo bonked Ace's head once the dinner was over. Why the hell did you go and challenge Whitebeard to a fight, idiot? Ace pouted at Sabo and crossed his arms above his chest, looking at the fire. I don't want them to control me. I don't want to run away from my fights. The Spades were listening to the conversation silently. It wasn't a big deal for them. Even if they were defeated by the Whitebeard once, they won't lose the second time, right? Deuce shook his head silently. It's useless telling him to not pick up fights. Deuce. Ace pouted at his first mate, who rubbed his temples silently, from the growing headache. Not you even. Ace Ni-chan looked so cool while challenging Banana Mustache Man. Luffy chirped hanging from Ace's shoulders and Sabo had to suppress the chuckle forming in his throat, to not inflate Ace's proud smile on his face. When I'll be 17, I'll also beat the Yonkos. Don't learn from him, Lou, Sabo said in a calm voice and many Spade pirates snickered at the huffing face of Ace. This idiot and his crew, no offense, Sabo said to the Spade pirates, who nod their heads, is not yet ready to take down emperors. We should be glad it's Whitebeard, not Kaido or Big Mom. Otherwise we will be dead, Finnemore said with a bit of shivering. Sabo was still learning the name of the 19 Spade pirates and it was tough. He doesn't have any idea from where Ace has picked his bunch of misfits to make a crew. But the crew was strong enough for Paradise but not for New World. Not for facing an Emperor of the Sea. They need to plan if they want to have even a certain % chance of winning. I am not forcing any of you to fight. I'm the only one who is going to fight with him, Ace said with a frown on his face. Sabo feels like banging his head. 'Cause Ace can be so much stupid sometimes. Ace, I don't care about your pride, he said warningly to his older brother. Yeah, he accepts but would never say it aloud but acts like a 10-year-old. But I want to fight my fights alone, Ace retorts leaning away from Kotatsu, the big black lynx cat, to show the seriousness of his statement. Where did Ace pick it from now? Sabo really wants to give Ace a good lecture on how it's not his fight alone. How he and Luffy could lose a brother if they let him fight this alone. But Luffy beats everyone who were about to state their point. He makes it to the point directly and it will forever be a mystery how Luffy tells the right thing at the right time. Ace is not alone in this. Ace will have us even if Ace decides to go against every emperor together or even the world government. Luffy tells from between Sabo and Ace while petting Kotatsu. We can't leave you alone and see you getting beaten up. Ace's crew tells him and Sabo is really glad for the first time that Ace has a loyal crew. You did help me in my revolutionary career, Sabo whispers for only Ace to hear, which he does and bites his lips as a sign of thinking. And maybe I will allow Ace and Sabo to fight by my side when I target the emperors. Luffy chirps and oh how Sabo wants to bonk Ace's head for giving Luffy the idea to fight Yonkos. He knows one day Luffy has to, if he wants to be the king of pirates, but he fucking wishes that Luffy doesn't until he is at least 20 or 21 and his future crew is stronger. Fine. But only when I wouldn't be able to overwhelm him, which won't be the case. Ace huffs like a baby and Sabo really wishes the 10-year-old Ace to see the new Ace. He would bet that Ace would be disgusted but that Ace didn't know love and that everyone loves him even if he has Roger's blood, whom he thought was a demon. Crew, I don't want any one of you to fight with the Yonko unless you want. I know most of you are not that strong and it's okay if you want to leave the crew now or even join the Whitebeards. I won't. Ace started fiddling with his hands trying to explain, but was cut off by his first mate. Shut up, Cap, we will fight alongside you forever. Even if it means death, Deuce said looking at Ace, seriously. Without you, some of us won't be even alive. We will follow you to hell and back, Captain, Banshee says with her eyes looking at Ace with conviction. Yes, Cap, Ace's crew courses back, making Ace blush a good color of crimson and shiny tears at the edge of his eyes. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, Ace says with a bright grin on his face, making the crew smile. Chapter 21. We need to plan, Sabo said, looking straight at Ace. We can't possibly think to fight and win with the entire crew of the Whitebeard pirates versus his 22 pirates. Sabo felt giddy at the word pirate. Being a revolutionary is awesome but taking a break here and there and being a pirate sometimes is even more cooler. We can knock out the majority of the crew with our conqueror's hockey, Ace pointed out, doodling with a stick on the story, and Sabo feels like that can give them some hope to win, even if it seems impossible. We need a backup plan though, Sabo said, and judging by Ace's reaction, he doesn't like it. If we do lose then we can escape in your ship. But why will we lose? And where is Piece of Spadil? Ace asks his crew who look at each other. Shut up, Ace, Sabo smacks Ace on his head, hopefully, that would give him some brain cells. It's only a backup plan and you do know, you are not ready to completely face off against an emperor. Ace sulks a bit, knowing deep within that is true. He isn't completely ready, but he doesn't care. He will fight and never run away from his enemy. We are sorry, Captain, Skull said seeing that no one was willing to say about Piece of Spadil, about their home. Our ship is on the last island, where we were defeated. The Spades dipped their heads in shame at the feeling that their captain was kidnapped in front of them and yet they couldn't do anything. They couldn't help him. They are and were weak. It's fine. Don't think about it. Ace tried to console, even though he feels bad about their ship but they will find it. Luffy, who had been playing with Kotatsu, looks at them with eyes filled with mischief, which Sabo and Ace can read even through their baby brother's cape. I can bring Ace's ship. Luffy chirped, bouncing on his place, and the Spades look at him in confusion. Aren't you too small to travel in the waters of the New World all alone? Banshee asks, from the other side of the bonfire, which was slowly dying. Don't worry, big girl. The Spades burst into laughter at Luffy's nickname for Banshee, and Banshee's eyes twitch. And Luffy continues. I can bring her home easily. Don't underestimate his size, Banshee, Sabo said, trying to not snicker. He will be fine. It's also good for Luffy to get to his mother. He doesn't get much time with all the people surrounding him. So, anything else to plan? Deuce asked, and he shaked his head at that. It was time for sleep, and they can plan tomorrow if they want, and he does need to think. The island can be used to their advantage too. The Spade Pirates with their captain and his brothers laid together under the starry night and had a peaceful night for the first time in the week after being kidnapped and captured by the Whitebeard pirates. Sabo and Ace take shifts keeping a watch on the crew and their baby brother. After all, they are still in enemy territory. They can't let their guard down for even a second. The morning comes pretty early, and by that time it was Ace's turn to take the shift. But they had other work to do too. Sabo shook Ace awake, then went for Luffy, who was wakened up by the promise of meat. Deuce was the last to be awakened. Take care of them. We will return in half an hour. Ace commands Deuce, who nods sleepily. They need to let go of Luffy early so that no one notices him leaving. They didn't want anyone to be suspicious at all. Not even the Spades for now. They walk to the shore and hunt down 2 bears. Ace cooks it and they eat their breakfast under the morning stars, before seeing off Luffy on the other side of the island, where Moby was not docked. I'll be back soon. Luffy chirps from the surface of the water and waves at them happily. Don't start the fight without me. We won't, Lou, Sabo says, smiling at his baby brother. Take care, Lou, Ace tells him, and Luffy with glee dives under the ocean. After the atmosphere in the Moby settled, Whitebeard and his commanders assembled in the commander meeting room. The commanders were gossiping among themselves on what to do and what not to. Whitebeard cleared his throat to gain attention, after taking a sip of his booze. My children, I assume you all know why we are gathered here today. At the answer in affirmation, Whitebeard continued. The Spade Pirates and the 3 Seas, your foolish young future brothers and sisters, have challenged us for a fight. Whitebeard saw many frowning and many sulking. Does they not want the Spades on Moby anymore? Well, he doesn't care. All he needs is Syra, Cyan and Cole aka Ace. We don't want them to be severely hurt now, don't we? But Pops, Haruta stood up from her chair with narrowed eyes. He could see the anger within them. We can't ignore their threat, even if they're weak. We need to take some actions against those brats. The whole world should know that what the Whitebeards want, we get. I understand, my son, but I personally don't think that the Spades and the 3 Seas will ever join if we beat it into them. Whitebeard told Haruta, who huffed and took his seat again. I don't want any of you to harm Ace, Cyan and Syra. Pops, Izo raised his hand. Shouldn't we keep an eye open for Cole? We do know that he can appear anytime, especially considering that Ace is his brother too. Whitebeard laughed at that and took a gulp of sake, much to Marco's discontentment. Cole is Ace, there's no doubt regretting it. The commanders feel silent, and Whitebeard could see Marco's eyes widening and his brain working. The time when Cole disappeared. It's the same time that Fire Fist, Ace appeared, yoy. Whitebeard's eyes twinkled in amusement that his sons were catching up fast. Yes, my son. It did strike me odd that the first one to rescue Ace is Syra and Cyan, Haruta said, noting the new discovery. It will be fun to play pranks with the trio, Thatch squealed, bringing smiles on everyone's faces. Pops, yoy. Marco raised his hand, from where he was sitting, with his hands crossed. But we can't take them lightly, yoy. All eyes turned to the 1st Division commander. Why, Marco? I swear Syra left a smell that makes my internal alarms blare. He smelled dangerous, like a predator, yoy, Marco said seriously. I don't think the squirt has more than Conqueror's hockey. Whitebeard set, hands gently rubbing the sake cup, which to his disappointment was now empty. We will win easily, don't worry, son. Now just how to tell our new brothers we don't plan on letting them leave, after we defeat them, Izo muttered. Whitebeard laughed loud enough to rock the entire ship. You make it sound so nefarious, son. Pops. It's literally kidnapping, Curiel told their father. He wasn't really getting any good vibes from the group. 1 prankster was enough on the ship, but now 3 more. That will be a disaster to say the least. It's for their betterment, and besides, we're pirates. What do we care if our methods are a little harsh? Whitebeard said with a cheeky smirk. Most of the commanders rolled their eyes fondly at the man. Quite a few of their brothers had been recruited this way. There was no running when Edward Newgate decided someone needed his unconditional love and support. Whitebeard really wants to protect Ace and the other 2 brats. He is also curious as to why they hide themselves under those hoods. He does have a good guess. Cole left the three seas to become a pirate on his own regard, and if that applies for the other two broths, then being clean at the start of their journey will surely help them. But why? Why did they start so early? They're a mystery, which he sure wants to solve. We need a map of this island sketched out, Sabo said, looking at the spades before him. On it, Skull replied, taking out a sheet of paper from who knows where. Skull and Saber leave the group to go to higher ground to make the map of the island where the fight will take place. Find out what is on this island and what is not. We can use it to our advantage, Deuce supplied out a piece of his mind. Sabo nodded at the suggestion. He was glad to share ideas with someone who has brains. Aggie 68 will lead the team exploring the north and west of the island. The team will have Barry, Cornelia, Dogia, and Finnemore. Ace commanded his crew. Aye, Captain. The team led by Aggie 68 choruses and leaves for the exploration. Kimmel will lead the other team exploring the south and east of the island. The team will have Kakai, Leonero, Osamundo, and Hublot. Ace said, looking at the other crew members. Aye, Cap. The other team marches to the other side of the island. With that they were set. Their plans will be coming into action soon enough. But one worry left in Sabo's mind as they slipped from the rest of the spades. Ace, we need to call Dad. Sabo said to Ace, who was looking anywhere but at him. Sabo placed a hand on Ace's shoulder. They need to do it. At least he has to. Dad was worried about him the most, when he vanished from the radar. After some coaxing, Ace finally agreed to it. Purr, click. Hi Dad? Ace said uncomfortably, shifting his weight from one leg to another. Sabo noticed it, but he can't help much rather than reassure him. Ace, is that you? Dragon's stoic voice filtered through the Den Mushi. His voice held the pure emotion of relief of finding that Ace is okay. He was worried that something had happened to Ace. What happened? Are you okay? You aren't hurt, are you? Ace was turning scarlet red at Dragon's question, and all his worries left him. I'm fine. Ace would forever deny that he stuttered, but judging from Sabo and the click of a camera, made him blush furiously. He wanted to run after Sabo and pin him down. But a part of him really wanted the love which Dragon always showed him, even when he did the most reckless thing in the world, after Luffy. I was worried. Dragon let go the breath which he was holding and placed the 3 Vivre card back in his drawer. He had kept them in front of eyes from the moment Ace's was smoldering. Is Sabo and Luffy okay? Yes, Dad. We are all okay, Sabo replied. What had happened? Dragon asked, back to his stoic voice. But they all knew the ever-present softness in his voice. After spending 7 years in his care, they had always known the care and kindness in his voice. I may have challenged the Whitebeards to a fight, Ace said sheepishly, ready to listen scolding. Are you serious, Ace? Dragon asked, not sure if his ears rang that moment. Yeah. Only 'cause they kidnapped me and my whole crew, Ace said angrily. Not to mention that Whitebeard was using Conqueror's hockey on me to join his crew. What? Dragon asked in a low voice. It's okay. Lou has negated the effect of the hockey from Ace, Sabo replied instantly. So, you both are meaning to say me that Whitebeard kidnapped the Spade Pirates and now you are going to fight them? Dragon summarized it, still not believing that Ace went after a Yonko and that Yonko crew wants his son. Well, it's not happening. Ace nodded. Okay. Dragon sighed at the stubborn nature of his sons, which he knows too well. Well, Ace really shouldn't have gone after the Yonko in the first place, but he can't help but feel proud that Ace was standing on his own feet and wanted to take down a Yonko. I thought I told you, Ace, to think before you act, didn't I? But still a bit of talk does need to be drilled in Ace. But it's not my fault, Ace retorts. I only wanted to gauge my strength. I don't want to be his son. He also wants Cyan and Syra. I don't like the way he was making the point. It looked like we are his toys. Ace spat in disgust. Come again. Dragon felt rage coil inside him. Whitebeard has not done it right to go after his sons. He kidnapped me 'cause he wants me as his son on his crew or as his slave, Ace says angrily. The moment we appeared on the Moby, he even asked us to join him, Sabo said calmly. I am sending backups, and wait for me, I am coming. If Whitebeard wants a fight, then he doesn't care. He can destroy the Moby and won't break a sweat for it. After all, he would be doing it for his son's betterment. No, Ace retorted. It's my fight. I want to and I can fight it, Dad. Don't worry, Dad. Sabo said from beside Ace. We are planning well to give them hell. The ride to the piece of Spadil Pass was jubilant to the sea child. Being in his mother's grasp and his friends was the best thing, after his brothers and father, of course. But spending time with his mother under the depths of the ocean, under the calm hands of his mother, was something which the young sea child craved more than ever. He could never get enough of it, of how he felt safe and happy with his mother right beside him. The way to the island where Pass was, it was filled with stories and fun with the sea kings and the sea fishes. He doesn't even feel hungry when he is with his mother, though he craved food. The ship stood proud on the shore, but looked sad. It was sad to have lost her crew and captain. Don't worry, you will meet them soon, Luffy said with his hands gently grazing the figurehead. With that, the ship felt less lonely, and onwards they set sail to the island where the crew was waiting for the ship and his brothers were waiting for him. The young sea child threw off his cloak and rushed inside the captain's cabin first. The room looked neat, but the ruffled bedsheets smelled like Ace and showed the signs of its inhabitant. The child threw one of his oldest brother's t-shirt over him. It reached till his knees. And one of Ace's short, which to his happiness peeked from the t-shirt. Happy with the change of the clothes and no need of wearing the stinky cloth, the kid slept off. It was the next morning which he wake up and his stomach growled. Unluckily for the residents of the crew, the fridge and the kitchen was licked clean in a matter of half an hour by the energetic ball of sunshine. The rest of the way back was spent exploring the ship, laying on the wooden deck and hearing the stories of the fights between the former pirate king and the old mustache man. They kept him busy, and when he felt the need to spend his energy, he sparred with the Sea Kings, much to their delight. The moment the familiar hockey presence entered their premises, the brothers strode for the shore, ignoring the Spade crew. But they might be following them, which they really don't care. They had a brother and a ship to meet. They were lucky to have noticed the young raven first, who was jumping excitedly on the deck, swinging from the snails to the crow nest. The sight made them almost coo at the boy wearing an oversized t-shirt of Ace and his pants. They ran forward at the hear of their name and hugged the boy. "Who is the cutest brother?" Sabo squealed at the younger boy, who puffed his cheeks and looked offended. "I am not cute," the younger retorted. But the oldest were not going to give up. Ace tressied the young raven's cheek. "You are," the brothers said together. "I'm not." I'm not." The match was going on, until the realization struck them. "The Spades?" Sabo pushed himself and Luffy to Ace's room. "Ace, I'm borrowing your clothes." The Spades were delighted to see their ship back to them and wanted to thank Syra, but Ace said Cyan and Syra were changing clothes, and this led the others to realize that they do stink. The moment the brothers came out of the room, the Spades stood in shock at the look of Syra, who was wearing an unbuttoned t-shirt and looked so small. They wished not for the first time, and probably not for the last time, that they could see beyond the black mask which adorned the face of the youngest now, who didn't even want to wear that. But Cyan, wearing a similar one and having to change to Ace's clothes, bribed him. "Captain," Banshee said as sudden realizations hit her, "you sure we should let Syra fight?" Ace and Sabo snicker at that. "I would say you should see him fight." Sabo provides helpfully. "Lou, come on. We have 100 fights to go." Ace shouts, gaining Luffy's attention, who bounces his way to his brothers. "I will totally beat you both today." Luffy chirps as his brothers, who ruffle Luffy's hair softly. "Nah." Ace teases Luffy by stretching his cheeks past human abilities. "I'll beat you like always." "Nah. I'll win this time." Luffy retorts, shaking his head. "You are weak. You will lose." Ace knew he was fueling the kid, and Luffy was falling into the trap full well. I'm not. Cut it out, you both." Sabo separates the two foreheads sticking to each other playfully. "Fine." Both teams grumble, and the Spades are still left in shock at the childish behavior of their captain, which soon turns into bigger shock. The Spades find the tiny teen holding his own against Ace and Sabo. He was doing well. Hell, he even won 5 times against Ace and Sabo. Chapter 22. The Spade pirates didn't look afraid at all. They were standing side by side their captain, Portgas D. Ace, who refused to give in to Whitebeard's request of being his son. Beside him on the left stood a blond man wearing a white full shirt, whose sleeves were half rolled, with 2 or 3 buttons unbuttoned, a blue trouser, a pair of black boots, and a black mask hiding his face from them. They can easily guess that the young man was none other than Cyan. On the right of the captain of Spade Pirates, stood a scrawny teen, who shouldn't be anywhere near this battle, wearing a red unbuttoned half-shirt in a similar fashion with Cyan, a blue fluffy short, a pair of sandals, and a black mask. The kid was none other than Syra. If Whitebeard had doubted Ace being Cole, it was clear the moment he saw the orange crystal locket of Ace, blue crystal locket of Cyan, and red crystal locket Syra. He was confirmed that Ace was no one other than Cole. This means he needs protection if he had left the 3 Seas. If people can come after him, he won't be able to protect himself. And that is where he will come in. The Whitebeard pirates, upon seeing the Spades, felt like a bit shocked. Questions about the crew's sanity arose. Who brings a fucking kid to a battle? How the hell did they even think of going against a crew of 1,500 people with only 21 people? Are they looking them down, or are they so set on making fool of themselves? "Become my sons and we won't have to fight." Whitebeard's voice loomed above the tension, with the pirates facing each other in the beachside, ready to attack at one signal. "Shut the hell up," Portgas Ace roared at Whitebeard, barely able to keep his twitching hands in control for the upcoming fight. "I already told you I'm not gonna be your slave." "Ace, yoy. We want you and your brothers as our brothers and family, not a slave, yoy." Marco tried to argue with a real point. Everyone in the crew really liked the Spitfires and wanted to make them their brothers since the time the 3 Seas have come in the newspaper. They wanted them as a family. What's wrong in it? "We don't care if you call your chains shackles, or family, or your mark a slave brand, or a Jolly Roger. You are no better than the celestial dragons. You tried to force Ace and us into your service and we will never forgive that. Cyan spat with a glare on his face, boring his eyes directly at Marco's and Whitebeard's skull. Marco would never forget the pure icy fury in those blue eyes. Was it really that bad? Thatch asked with tears shimmering in the corner of his eyes. He only wanted to make Ace his brother. Were their methods so bad? Snatching someone's freedom is never good, bread hair. Cyrus spoke with his eyes shadowed. You all should have listened our choices as well before deciding on your own. Syra is right, we never wanted to be part of your crew. Ace spoke, placing a hand on Syra's shoulder, as if trying to protect the small kid from the hateful eyes of the crew standing behind the commanders. Deuce can see the commanders understanding but the large crowd, they were not. They didn't want or even try to understand. Well, that's not their problem. They will be free, even if it means they have to clash with the Whitebeard pirates. Guarara. Whitebeard shook with his laughter. Bring all you can, you all are going to lose. The three brothers took a step forward, eyes gleaming with the seriousness of the battle about to take place. A sudden pressure washed over the crew of the Emperor of the Sea, whose hockey to defend his defenseless crew members failed miserably. The fodder of the Whitebeard pirates dropped one by one on the shore as puppets without strings. The only ones were left were the commanders and Whitebeard himself. Whitebeard slammed his Bacento in anger in the shore, once the hockey was lifted and a smirk on the faces of the challenger crew appeared. He tried his own conqueror's hockey to remove the weaker members of the Spades, but it seemed like the opposing team knew he will do that. They were already encompassed them with protective hockey from their captain and his brothers. That's cheating, Yoy, Marco retaliated in anger, seeing his brothers' fallen bodies. He really wanted to beat the shit of his new brothers and show them it is not good manners to hurt your future family. I don't see it, Birdie. The captain of the Spades pirates let out a devilish howl of laughter, making Marco's eyes twitch in annoyance at the nickname. It's a fair fight now. Cyan spoke, readying his weapon for the fight to begin. Also, I should warn you only for humanity's sake. They can feel the blonde giving a mean grin, before pointing his pipe to the fallen brothers of the commanders. You should get them in. Won't be good for your family, if they get snatched by the waves. Are you brats threatening me and my crew? Whitebeard glared at the brats. The brats are powerful than he had thought. But he will make them his sons and they will join, once they lose the war. Ding dong. Cyrus chirped, bouncing in his place, making the commanders rethink if they should fight the little kid. Today's weather reports say lots of storm and high waves. Guararararara. Whitebeard laughed and looked at the kid standing beside his brother. He has a feeling that the kid will be the wild card of the battle. Maybe Marco was right, that the boy didn't seem that dangerous by his looks. You brats can't still defeat me. We will see about it. Ace roared and lunged onto Whitebeard and the fight started. The Whitebeard pirate lunged forward to attack the Spade pirates, without any solid plan, as their plan was shattered the moment the brothers decided to make their brothers unconscious. Unaware of where they were taking the attack, the Whitebeard commanders fell into the trap of plans the Spades and the Three Seas had made. The Whitebeard commanders only knew one thing: they need to take down the leaders. Fire Fist, Ace will be dealt by Whitebeard and the other two brats, Red Maniac, Syra and Blue Sly, Cyan will be defeated by the commanders. They wouldn't need to spend much resources and power to defeat the kid, but they might keep their guards on the blonde. Marco charged the battle as Whitebeard became busy with messing up with Fire Fist. He had given him the opportunity to look over the battle and he will see through it. He ordered Namur and Rikuya to stay by his side and help him to load his unconscious brothers in the Moby. Most of the commanders have followed the brats and the Spades, while Thatch and Belheim stayed on the beach to deal with Deuce and Skull. The clashing of swords and the battle cry was ringing in Marco's ear. But the battle didn't matter to any of them. All that mattered, right now, to Marco was the warning of the brothers. The battle inside the forest was interesting to say the least. On one hand, the moment the Whitebeard commanders entered the forest, the aura of Syra and Cyan disappeared as if they never existed. The only ones in front of them were the Spade pirates who were trying to keep up with them. They were light on them. After all, they didn't want Ace to lose his crew and make him feel angry and not willing to join their crew far more than he feels right now. Diamond Jozu head straight for the blonde who was whistling on top of the tree. He was looking smug and Jozu wanted to remove that from the blonde's face. The blonde had made him run all over the forest only to disappear in seconds. He was fast and smart, which Jozu can attest to. He was getting tired with the cat and mouse chase, which the blonde was giving him. But he can guarantee the blonde will be a good addition to the crew. If some headstrong brothers need a little beating to join the crew, he will gladly give them that. With that he dashed to the blonde, not wanting to let him vanish on him again. But the blonde seemed to be bored from the little game he had playing. He saw the blonde jump down from his seat on the trunk of the tree which he had claimed, and run towards him. Jozu smirked. He would at last get the fight whore. Their bodies took in their combat positions and his fists clashed with the blonde's pipe and his energy felt leaving him. He regretted not being much careful. The blonde was using damn sea stone. Sea stone. He gritted his teeth. "Oh, you are smarter than you look," the blonde mocked him. "I thought you would have diamonds for your brains." Jozu wanted to smash the pipe into pieces and make the blonde take back his word. But his energy was leaving him drastically the longer he stayed in contact with the pipe. He took a good distance away from him and uprooted a tree. Now who had diamonds for brains? Jozu smirked, throwing the tree on the blonde. He hoped that the blonde doesn't die from it. It would piss Pops off. But to his relief or not, the blonde dodged the tree effortlessly. "You have strength, but you can't hope to defeat me with it," the blonde said smugly and attacked him. Jozu dodged it easily. The blonde seemed to be amused by that, if his crescent eyes were a sign. And then Jozu realized the mistake he had made. He had given the blonde an opening, but before he could really prevent and cover the opening, the blonde's hands were shaped like a claw and his fingers were cladded with armament hockey. The attack seemed familiar to him, but he couldn't place it exactly why. He could already be assured that it would hurt like hell to a normal person. But the blonde seemed to have forgotten that he is a diamond man. The claws were on his chest and Jozu's fists hit hard on the blonde's jaw, making blood trail from his mouth. But the blonde didn't move. He stuck to him like leech. With a mocking laugh, the blonde unleashed his attack, and that was the moment Jozu realized he fucked up. He wasn't able to give the blonde a proper fight. All cause he was tried from running and being in contact with the sea stone pipe which had been pinned on his feet. Dragon claw attack, the blonde muttered, and true to the attack, it hit like a bitch. He threw blood from his mouth. He could feel his ribs shattering already. "Checkmate," the blonde said with his pipe up on the air. Jozu tried to dodge the attack, but the attack was way too fast for him to dodge. With one attack on his head, his body fell on the ground, and black void encompassed him. He would never repeat this mistake of not judging his opponent well. Sabo vanished into the woods all again, leaving an unconscious Jozu tied with sea stone. He needed to take down 2 more commanders before going to help Ace. The Spades were doing their best, but they are not that strong still. He would suggest Ace to get them some proper training before going ahead in his career of being a pirate. Sabo took turns and turns until he found Luffy, who had already beat Haruta and was messing around with Izo. The Whitebeard commander was not taking Luffy seriously at all. That's why Luffy was winning mostly. The commanders were trying their best to not go for Syra, it seems. By the sounds of the metal clanging with metal, it was clear the Spades were holding against their opponents. But they won't be able to do it forever. He truly worries what will happen if Ace lost. Will they run until the Whitebeard stop chasing them? Will they go into hiding and then come out later to defeat Whitebeard? There were endless possibilities in store for the future, depending on the choices of one. But the most important thing is the present, that we live in. With that, Sabo clanged his metal pipe with that of the large iron gauntlets of the 11th Division commander of the Whitebeard pirates, King Du. On the other side with Whitebeard and Ace. "Why are you adamant, brat?" Whitebeard asked, countering Ace's fire attacks with his Basento easily. "Why should I become your son even in the first place?" Ace glared at the man, who was trying to hold him. He coated his arms with armament hockey and with a smirk on his lips the other hand formed the shape of claws. He used his fire to propel him away from Whitebeard, having found the core of the rocky part of the beach, where they were fighting. "Dragon breath," Ace shouted. "You can be safe and the Marines won't hunt you down for." Whitebeard jumped out of the reach of the cracks of the ground. He has to say this attack was impressive, as it broke the whole rocky plain where they were fighting in pieces. If he wouldn't have jumped, maybe he could have tripped. Well, he is not that old. The distance between him and the teen shortened as the teen lunged forward to attack him, only for him to stop after hearing Whitebeard. Being Roger's son and Cole. Ace stiffened for a moment before lunging towards Whitebeard and using his small stature to get between his legs before attacking him. "I don't give a shit about those. Being in the sea means." Ace lunged forward, pretending to attack Whitebeard from back, but only to slide between his legs and jump in front of him to use his fire fist on Whitebeard's face. Risk. Whitebeard blows of the flame as if he was blowing a candle placed on a cake. But Whitebeard found Ace coming behind from the flames with his hands cladded with armament hockey to crush him. "I have been born with a target on my head and I don't fucking care about the WG. I am strong enough to defend myself and my crew. I don't need your help to keep myself safe. Brat, be my son and you can run wild and free," Whitebeard replied, catching Ace's hand in the right moment and throwing him to a stone. Ace's body changed to fire on instinct. Ace and Whitebeard both take a moment to catch their breath. "Never," Ace says between his pants and gets up, dusting his trousers and looking straight in Whitebeard's eyes. "I already have 2 great fathers. I don't want to add a senile old man like you in the list." Sabo ran through the grasses and trees covering in the forest. He had defeated his share of commanders and now the rest can be handled by the Spades and Luffy. He has to say the commanders were difficult to defeat, but none he fought truly used their brains. King Du had quick reflexes and a great stamina, but that hadn't made him give up on the guy. It had only made him excited. After winning the fight, and taking a little breath, he had rushed to Fosa, who had defeated Aggie 68 already and was a good swordsman. His blade was literally fuming, but his pipe was stronger than his sword. Only due to his respect for a person's choice of weapon, the sword was not broken from his skull-crushing hands. Sabo just wishes Luffy and the spades to be safe. The last he saw Luffy, the idiot was trying to punch Flamenco. Seriously, he had told the boy to stay away from strong fighters, but no, he would never listen to him. The presence of Banshee and Kotatsu though helped him to not freak out at that moment. But the most important problem is Ace. He has been fighting Whitebeard for at least since an hour. Sabo clenched his teeth at the thought that it took him so much time to defeat his opponents. He wishes he could lock onto Ace's presence, but Ace had done a right thing by nullifying it. Whitebeard won't be able to predict his attacks if Ace continued to do it. But he knows that it is damn tiring. He needs to help him. He reaches the shoreline and hears the clang and cling of the swords meeting each other and the sounds of fists being exchanged, but the most relieved he felt when he heard Ace's war cry. Ace was fine. He felt taking a breath which he had been holding onto. The beach was now mostly cleared. His plans were working. The only thing left was to do is defeat the commanders and Whitebeard, and then the victory will be theirs to claim. But Sabo is not naive to think that they can win against the strongest man in the world yet. Once he reached the end of the forest, he noted the position of the commanders. Wallace was fighting with Namur, Deuce was fighting with Rikuyo. When they were retreating to the forest, he had seen Marco, Rikuyo and Namur drag the bodies of their brothers to the Mobi. If they are fighting, that means the work is over. Sabo would have cursed if not for the phoenix who had thought it was the right time to take a flight. Sabo grinning evilly and climbed the top of the tree, waiting for his prey to soar above. Marco was looking lazily at the Mobi while picking up his unconscious brothers. He didn't want to lose any of them. With the help of Namur and Rikuyo, it was an easy task. He wouldn't let his brothers being dragged by the violent waves into the depths of the ocean, and it's not like the brats can defeat them, so it will fine. After picking up the last of his brother, Marco stood beside the unconscious forms of Thatch and Blenheim, who have lost to the first mate of the Spades pirate, Deuce, and another Spade pirate, Skull. One look on the other side could easily show that Deuce had easily won and was fighting Rikuyo, while Skull was panting and a bit injured and was helping Mihar to fight Vista, and Wallace was fighting with Namur. Thatch needs training. Being in the kitchen and cooking has made him rusty. Marco groaned at the thought. But he knew on inside that there was another reason for why Thatch might have not attacked the Spades with his full power. The guy was emotional. He felt as if they were doing wrong since the beginning of the war. He took a deep sigh. He couldn't do anything. If Oyaji wants someone, then he gets someone. With that in his mind, he changed into his phoenix form and was about to soar to the air to keep an eye on his brothers and look for any fighter. Except Ace, who was fighting at the other side of the beach, which pops. He didn't even register when he was lunged on. Apparently, Cyan had lunged onto him just the moment he was high enough and close to the ocean. It was not fair. Why did not he sense the brat pouncing at him? With an aggravated phoenix screech, he tried diving above in the air, but it was getting off no use. The blonde man, with his hockey-coated fingers, grabbed him and was pulling him down with all his weight. His balance was messing up, due to Blonde having his weight on one side of his body. The blonde's eyes were clearly smiling at him, panicking, and the water closing in. But if he falls in the water, the blonde will fall too. Meaning he will take one down with him and Namur would fish him out with the other. And in his weakened state they could easily win, even if he didn't like cheap tricks. It would have to work. But one look at the water below was saying something else. The waves were trashing violently, and Marco couldn't help but feel the fear of being dragged into the water clutch his heart tightly. Suddenly, the waves were far too near. Even the frantic beating of his wings didn't slow down his descent. Not with the blonde hanging onto one of them, hindering him. Within seconds, he was in contact with the water. It didn't take time for the water to close over his head and his lungs seized. Helpless, he looked right into the wicked grin of the young man, still having a crushing hold on him. Feathers had reverted to fingers, and they ached as if the blonde had broken them with his grip. Bye, pineapple head. When Marco had tried to hold on to the blonde with his broken fingers, he'd gotten a steel pulled to the face, and had been looked at like he was the S of the earth. Marco had no trouble believing that blonde wanted him dead and gone. The blonde mocked him, and he swears he can feel him grin meanly before Cyan twiddled the fingers of his free hand and let go of him. Hard in the throat, Marco felt himself sinking. His energy was draining. His limbs had gone limp, and any second his lungs would give up. His ears were burning up due to all the pressure. It had been a long time since he felt the terror of sinking in the ocean, and this experience was making it more frightening. Marco could see the blonde treading through the water smoothly with a surprising speed and grace towards the surface, unlike himself. Marco had thought that the blonde was a fruit user, but he apparently was not, leading him to this situation. His lungs were burning. The desperate feeling of wanting the sweet taste of oxygen and getting out of the ocean plagued his mind. He wanted to hold his throat to not allow himself to have any intake of the seawater, but he was failing as each second was passing through. Eventually, his lungs gave out, and he took a deep, deep breath. He was desperate. He didn't want to die here. He never thought he would hate a future brother, but here he was about to be killed by one. He was unconsciously inhaling more and more water, making him feel really dizzy. When was the last time that he had felt this close to dying? He hasn't. A sudden calmness hit him. It felt like his body left him. It was as if he was waking up from a deep, long nap and was still in the after effects of it. His vision was swimming and he wondered if he hallucinated Namur rushing towards him. In the forest, in the comparison of the Whitebeard pirates, the spades were losing. For 6 Whitebeard commanders, 8 spades were lost. Lying on the ground unconscious. No one from any side was dead, all cause the other didn't want to dirty their hands or didn't want to kill their future brother. On one side of the forest, Atmos was being comforted by Dogia and Nehru, while on the other side, Speed Jiru was facing Saber and Kimmel, and in the middle of the forest, Leonero was holding his own against Cruel, but wouldn't be able for long. And somewhere else, Syra, Banshee and Kotatsu were facing Flamenco. Every fight is tough. Determination alone cannot be the key to success, but they fight. Namur had seen it all. He had seen the blonde falling in the water with Marco, and fear had crept onto him instantly. His brother was growing to drown, and here he was facing off a spade. With adrenaline flowing through him, he jumped into the water, abandoning doesn't matter if he is regarded as a coward later. His brother, his family is in danger and he needs him. He swam through the most disturbing, difficult and dangerous current of the New World. He needed to reach his brother in time. Marco's mouth was wide open when he finally saw a glimpse of him. His lazy, carefree eyes were dropping steadily. Namur forced himself to move fast, and finally, Marco was in his hands. He tore the water in front of him, creating a path for him to throw the phoenix to the surface. Luckily, it worked, even if it tired his body to a large extent. He couldn't help but go after his brother. They resurfaced quickly and Namur led the 1st Division commander to the Mobi. Tate, the head nurse, was awake. He passed him to the nurse, who immediately started pressing his chest and performed CPR. The 1st Division commander was not responding. His chest were uncharacteristically still. For a moment fear engraved him, but then he saw his older brother throw a whole heap of water. He was breathing, he was alive. Marco was shivering when he came to proper consciousness. He never would want to take a dip in the seawater ever again. Even though he loves the sea, he had felt his whole life flashing before his eyes the moment he was losing his unconsciousness. But Marco was a commander and the right-hand man of the Whitebeard pirates. He can't let himself cower from the near-death encounter. He had to rise up, for his brothers to feel at ease. He had to get on his feet to defeat the spades. So, he did after Namur went to join his fight. And he was lucky, otherwise the Syra brat would have gone straight for his pops. It isn't that Oyaji wouldn't be able to handle 3 brats, but the fact that his inner phoenix was feeling uneasy with the brat here. So, he jumped from the Mobi, despite the protests of Tate. He has a fight to fight, he can't be useless now. Yo, pineapple head. Luffy casually says and notices his brothers already fighting with Whitebeard. He wants to join them in the fight with the old man, but he needs to first fight with Birdie. Marco narrowed his eyes at the young teen standing in front of him. Looking him from close, he looks more fragile and weak. Why did the brothers leave the boy to him? Did they think that a dip in the seawater would drop his strength drastically? Well, if they did so, then they are in for a great disappointment. Go home kid, Yoi, Marco said, but knew that the kid is not someone to mess with. The thunders cackling with the teen's laughter seemed to show that the kid was dangerous. I'm home. The teen said, taking his stance for the fight which was about to happen. Where my brothers are, there is my home. Why don't you join us then, Yoi? We will have a big family and more brothers, Yoi. Marco knew he really didn't want the blonde to be his brother anymore, but he hadn't given up on the rest too. But what if they are same heartless, which he can believe easily after seeing Cyan. He won't doubt if he would be said the next day after they join, that someone died. The boy titled his head a complete 180 degree, which is impossible for any normal human, and his doe eyes blinked innocently. For a moment, Marco felt that instead of fighting the kid, he is supposed to protect him. Protect the innocent kid from the cruel world. But who is he kidding? His phoenix instincts have been alarming him about the kid since the moment he had set foot on the Mobi, to be wary of him as if the kid is a predator and the others are his prey. Ace and Cyan don't want to. Syra spoke with his chirper voice. It looked like that they weren't even in the mid of a battle. Looking into each other's eyes and conveying that neither of them are going to fall for the other's words. The clouds groaned angrily and a tree behind Syra burned into ashes with the lighting which crashed, but neither flinched but took that as a sign to commence their fight. Marco's eyes widened the moment his half-flaming body came in contact with the teen's punches. The teen was a hockey user. He could touch him easily. Well, that was not the most surprising thing, cuz the teen did show an awesome display of his conqueror's hockey, and dare he say that it might be rivaled with Whitebeard's. But the most shocking thing happened when in the midst of the battle, he felt weak. He felt as if his energy was being sucked at a slower rate. The sensation was familiar to Marco, who had recently taken a dip in the sea waters. The teen's punches made him feel like he was ankle deep in the seawater. But the only difference was that his powers didn't shut but it slowed. He even cross-checked if the teen was wearing any gloves coated with sea stone, but there wasn't. This shouldn't faze him, but the mystery teen gave Marco shivers. He kept up dodging the boy's punches next. The boy could punch. The one punch which the boy missed landed on a poor boulder and it reduced to mere rubbles. The spar which Marco was doing with Syra didn't let him fly off and attack the kid from air. Whenever he even tried to use his wings to fly off, he was somehow pulled down. The wind pressure on him was increasing violently and the lightning bolts were nearly missing him, the times when he managed to hit Syra. The sea behind him was raging and the water was reaching the shore. It was a violent storm as Syra had predicted at the beginning of the battle. The kid might be either a good navigator to predict weather or the storms were somehow related to the kid. But the latter didn't make any sense to him, when the teen was clearly showing some stretching powers. "What is you devil fruit, Yoi?" Marco asked, ducking a blow straight for his head. The teen had already managed to get a grip on him once, and let's say it wasn't a good experience. He had felt his ribs breaking and he knew at least 4 to 5 of his ribs were sure broken, if not for his devil fruit which was keeping a good job at healing him. The kid frowned at him and looked way too offended if his kick to Marco was something to say. "Jerk," Marco heard the teen mutter. Whatever the teen's powers were, it was completely unnatural. But what if the kid was really a good weather predictor and was someone else controlling the storms? He hadn't thought about that possibility earlier. What if that someone was hiding somewhere and controlling it? Who else can it be that the Whitebeards have not seen? Marco's eyes widened when he kicked the boy and threw him to a tree. He looked everywhere, spread his hockey, but no, he can't feel the presence of the Syra's mom who can be the one pulling this off. Cyan and Syra have told that they were brought here by Syra's mom, which means she is the one who can be controlling these. And if she was good at hiding her presence like her brats, then they won't be able to find her anytime soon. Marco gritted his teeth at another failure of the battle. But even if their numbers are reduced, they will win, he knows. Even if there are only 5 commanders left and 12 spades, they will win cause Whitebeard is the strongest man in the world. The teen got up, blood spot clearly visible under his mask, and his mask stretched, indicating that he was grinning. Whitebeard was impressed by the sheer strength and willpower the teens were showing to him. The teens have compelled him to use his devil fruit power. But unfortunately he can't use his power to its full extent. His sons are all there near the shore. Well, he really wants to make Ace, Cyan and Syra his sons, but the determination burning in their eyes were making him think otherwise. He would love to see what the kids would do in the future. After all, his era is going to be over soon. The era to the youngsters was arriving and no boat would lead him to that. He was glad with the energy the brats were showing. Their kicks and punches and plus the failed hits with pipes on his skull, showed their strength and stamina, which could only be gained through vigorous training. "Tell me, why you wanted to fight me in the first place?" He was curious about it. Why would a rookie go after Yonkos? Was the teen so overconfident that he would win the fight against a Yonko crew? He didn't take the fire brat as that. The brat cared for his crew, then why should he even come after him if his crew wasn't that strong? The fire brat wiped up the blood from his lips and looked him dead in his eyes. "I want to surpass someone who isn't alive anymore." "Surpass, you say?" Whitebeard laughed. "But I feel this is a suicide mission." "I don't care whatever you say." Ace lunged forward, with his eyes connecting with Cyan momentarily. "I will do it." He liked the determination in those eyes. Should he let the boys go and see them grow? The question stuck him again. He was momentarily lost in his musings when Cyan attacked him on his leg. He would be sure that some bones broke with the attack. But instead of anger, he laughed. The brat had guts. He threw Cyan to other side, but before he could hit the rock, Ace was there to save him. He got a glare from Ace showing how badly he really wanted to hurt him. Well, the brats were looking for a real fight. He won't mess now. The brats lunged together at him, and he raised his Bacento. He will only make them unconscious. He is tired of this fight now. It needs to end. "Stop it." The air suddenly chilled around the whole island and a roar was heard. The only people who were conscious were dropping on the island floor like puppets without strains. Whitebeard felt a powerful force crushing him. He couldn't move. And one look on the other brats in front of him showed otherwise. The brats were standing, were moving, but had stopped in their tracks in favor of looking at the one who disrupted their fight. Whitebeard heard footsteps coming towards him. One look on that side showed him Syra, who looked furious, and Marco, who was just frozen like him and couldn't move a muscle, but somehow they were able to witness the pure fury in Syra's face. The mask didn't hinder it. It only made him look much more dangerous. "Whitebeard," Syra said in a low growling voice. He could hear the beating of drums coming from where Syra stood, right in between of Ace and Cyan. Even they were not interrupting the boy, and Whitebeard felt why the boy was dangerous for the first time. The shocked look on their faces cleared the fact they were even seeing this face of the boy for the first time. The fiery deep golden and red eyes burned into his mind. The whisks of white hair mixed with his blackish mop seemed to float in the air, and his eyebrows showed the beginning of curls in it. Whitebeard felt as if he was standing in front of the most powerful entity, cause the boy can't be a human. Even if he would have regarded the boy as one having a mythical zone, then also the power radiating from the boy would not be explained. "Keep your hands off my brothers," the boy said with such possessiveness that it was terrifying. Did the boy had advanced observation haki which allowed him to see the future where his brothers were hurt? Well, it wouldn't be more surprising. Whitebeard felt the pressure which was crushing him leave a bit, allowing him to speak, to justify his actions. "Think before you open your mouth, or it will be the last words you will ever say," the boy said, and he can hear the clarity in his voice completely. The boy wasn't joking. He had powers to make his words turn into actions. In all these, Whitebeard knew not to anger the entity before him. He knew he shouldn't risk the lives of his sons, who are all lying unconscious and won't be getting up anytime soon. "I'm sorry," that's all he could give to him. He was understanding his mistake. He had forced a pirate group to join him, to give away their freedom to him. But Whitebeard met the kid's eyes and a certain feeling resounded throughout him. He wished to argue that he wanted to just make them his sons and give them a family, but his words refused to come out of his mouth. "The war is over," the commanding voice of the boy said, and from the corner of his eyes he saw Ace about to argue when the boy showed him his back and turned towards his brothers. He could see the test he was pulled into. So, he didn't dare attack. He could see the boy's smile stretch and his mask melt into his skin and become one, but his face wasn't clear. Only Ace and Cyan could see him. "Call truce," he heard the boy said, and the next moment he fell in the arms of his brothers. Chapter 24. A few hours before the war starts. Raku, a member of the 12th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, was pissed off. How dare someone like the small rookie crew have the gall to challenge his pops? It was not acceptable to him. He wanted to see the utter defeat of the pirate crew, and maybe when pops would say that they were really not suitable for joining the Whitebeard pirate, he could keep that as a memory in his mind. So, after talking to his commander, who was feeling similar rage as him, they set up a Den Mushi recorder at the crow's nest to perfectly record the battle. If the crews joined them, they could be teased with that, or if not, they could laugh their asses at the reckless rookies who were crushed under pops and would remember the lesson just fine. Back in the present, Syra, Ace and Cyan shouted the moment the limp, exhausted body of Luffy fell in their arms. Their little brother was unconscious, and by the looks of the weather and the waves, it was a very, very bad thing. "Ace, go," Cyan said when Ace carefully settled Luffy in his arms. "I'll take care of things here." Ace nodded at once and gave a run to the other seashore, where people won't be able to see them. He ignored the stunned, worried expression of the remaining Whitebeards who were standing. The sea was violent. The waves were huge and powerful, crashing against the shore or the rocks with a deafening noise. The dark murky water was asking for its sun. The sky was pitch black. It was momentarily glowing with the sparks of lightning which cackled in the dark sky. "I'm sorry," Ace said once he reached a safe shore finally. He crouched down to let the boy be touched by the waves, which soon engulfed him whole. The violent waves were gone. The dark clouds were moving off the sight, giving way to a clear sky. Marco didn't know what caused the things which had happened, but one thing he was sure of now: the kid was far too dangerous. If Oyaji had stopped fighting and was still looking at the place where Ace had taken the kid. Cyan sighed, catching his attention from the now calm waves and sky. "It's a truce then?" he asked, confirming Syra's words. Whitebeard was not going to get the wrath of whatever entity Syra was. He doesn't want to endanger his family. So, the only thing he could do was call a truce. "Yeah," he said, before turning from the fight. "The brats did give him a good fight. He wishes that they come sometimes to spar with him. He won't mind that at all." He looked at Marco, who was deep in his thinking, probably thinking what the heck Syra even is. "Marco," he said, snapping the blonde's attention, "tend to the wounded. The war is over." Cyan took that as a sign to leave. He needed to wake the spades up and see if they were injured. Well, he should wake Deuce first. With that, Cyan ran to the shore where Deuce was. It took him a while to make him get up, but it worked. "What happened?" Deuce hissed, holding his head as a pain shot through his forehead. It felt like he had drunk gallons of alcohol in a go. "War is over. We have called a truce," Cyan informed the Spades doctor and the first mate. "We need to look after the injured, and if everyone is going to wake up with that headache, then we need to make some medicine for that." Banshee knows to make hangover medicines, Deuce supplied, making Cyan nod and move toward the woman. After a few minutes, the woman woke up and was supplied with the task. Slowly everyone was getting up and was given a glass of hangover medicine, making them feel better. But Sabo was worried about Luffy. The power which he had used doesn't seem good. It clearly was taking a toll on his body, even with the half transformation. The raging seas were the best sign of it. His work here was over, so he could join them. Sabo walked past the Whitebeard pirates, who also seemed to waking up and tending to their injured. Whitebeard seemed to look at him, but Sabo didn't mind. He just needs to go for Ace and Luffy. Whitebeard won't break the truce if he has even a little ounce of what he has been portrayed as. Once on the shore, he saw Ace sitting on the shore, with his legs close to his chest and his arms wrapped around them. He placed a hand on his shoulder, making Ace look at him. "How is he?" Sabo asked, looking at the sea where but there were no signs of Luffy. He wanted to take a dip in the ocean to check on the boy, but he couldn't leave Ace right now. Moreover, from the face of Ace, he is blaming himself. They are to be blamed. They had known that pouncing on Whitebeard, even if they hadn't seen any chance to get a hit on him, was a bad idea, but they couldn't help it. Nut came out still, Ace said in a low voice. Ace was fearing that the sea won't return her son to them anymore. All cause they had injured him. What if the sea really doesn't give them Luffy back? Ace would never forgive himself. Luffy is the little sunshine in his life. He can't lose him. He doesn't know what he will do, but sure, he will crumble if something happened to Luffy or even Sabo. He will come soon, Sabo said sitting beside him. After some more silence, Sabo spoke again. What was that transformation? They had seen Luffy's eyes shifting to fiery golden and red sometimes during some of their missions, but they would always take that as a fluke of sunshine shining on his eyes. But today's transformation was no doubt real. The fact that the name Luffy had told them about his devil fruit was nowhere in any devil fruit books was more of a mystery. But they knew it was a mythical zone, and other than that they didn't know a thing. Don't know, Ace mumbled looking at the shore. The water started gurgling, making Ace and Sabo go stiff and pay attention to it. After an agonizing moment, a black mop of hair poked from the water, followed by the pair of brown doe eyes, making the brothers smile widely. Luffy, the brothers said together, grinning in happiness. The said boys soon came out completely from the water. Ace, Sabo. He threw himself on the boys and was hugged by his brothers. Ace and Sabo looked gratefully at the sea and did a full 90-degree bow. Thank you, they said together, before ruffling Luffy's hair, making the boy giggle. Don't scare us that way, Ace said looking at Luffy, who blinked in confusion. Huh? The boy was confused. What do you mean, Ace? Ace scowled a little. The way you fell limp, don't do that again. It scared us. The boy was blinking in confusion again but just shrugged it off. The last he remembered was of fighting with the birdie and then everything was blank. He doesn't remember what happened, and when he asked his mother, she said that later he will understand, not now. He just accepted that. Okay. Luffy gave his wide D grin at his brothers, who chuckled at him. Here, Sabo handed Luffy his cloak and a spare mask. Luffy pouted a little but wore it and kept the mask in his pocket. Let's party, the boy said running off in the direction of the beach where everyone was. Syra. Ace shouted while Sabo chuckled at the childish behavior, which his brother was back to. The little boy went straight to the beach, where Deuce and the other spades were. Even Whitebeard and some commanders were there. Let's party. Syra's voice bloomed through the listeners' ears, making mostly everyone chuckle at the childishness. Whitebeard and Marco were stunned at the way they shared glances were something. They had seen the tense and powerful atmosphere Syra can create, and now this was a whole lot of change. Syra. I said no, Ace shouted, finally getting hold of the energetic boy. Sabo was not going to try to persuade the little ball of energy. Cuz when the boy thinks something, he does it. But why? Syra spoke innocently, tilting his head on his side. After a good battle, we should always party. I don't want to do anything with them, Ace grumbled, catching Syra. I just want to leave. Come on. We will have our party on our ship. Gurarararara. Whitebeard laughed seeing the antics of the smallest. He reminded him of Roger, the way they could fight. Why not? We can have a beach party or a campfire. What do you think, Thatch, Marco, Syra, Cyan, and Ace? Hell no. Ace shouted while Syra did his little dance of happiness. Cyan stood behind Ace, placing a hand on his shoulder. You can't stop him when he gets like this. Big girl. Syra was again running. We are doing a party. See, Cyan pointed out. We will leave after it. Fine, Ace grumbled, and Whitebeard laughed. I wouldn't mind spending time with you guys, even if you don't become our brother, Thatch said gleefully. Before Ace could reply that he doesn't want anything to do with them, he was gone, supervising his division. It's only cuz of Syra, I am here, Ace said with narrowed eyes. Don't interpret anything, he grumbled and left after Syra. When Ruka woke up from the blast of Conqueror's hockey attack, he felt his head splitting in two. It was agonizing, but he had understood the capabilities of the pirates before him. But he would not refuse to tell that he didn't like them. They were loud, rude, and arrogant to his pops. They had refused Pop's offer to join their family. Being a Whitebeard was such a prestigious offer, which they were crushing under their feet. He sighed. The least he could do is, look at how the war had gone. His head throbbed at the sudden movement he made, but he stood on his feet. He didn't want to believe that they had called a truce. Sure, his pops might have felt generous and let the brats go away, but why? He doesn't understand, and his only option is to watch the snail and see what chaos had gone in the shore, which was the only thing he could see. From the looks of the forest and broken trees, the fight had gone past to the beach and he wouldn't be able to see that. He sighed once again as he climbed onto the crow nest. Hello, he greeted the news crew who looked a bit dazed. Probably it was flying above their ship when the second blast of hockey had been made. Poor bird, he thought. The bird squawked and got away from his reaching hands. He tried to fly again and this time knocked the snail, which got knocked out from the crow nest. Before he could move fast, the snail was tucked into the bag of the news coup and the news coup flew off. What the fuck, he muttered as he watched helplessly as the bird became a dot on the horizon. Commander Haruto was going to kill him if he knows. It would be better if he avoids the commander for a few days, or when the commander is in a good mood he can say that to him. Yeah, the latter sounds better. He just hopes that he isn't killed. After the food was made for the party, people began eating on the beach. Some Whitebeard commanders were still skeptical that the fight was over and a truce was called, while some just accepted it. Thatch and his division were making barbecues, and Banshee, with the help of some spade pirates, was making meat, ordered by the 3 black holes. The trio ASL brothers were stacking plates on plates, ignoring the horrified expression of the chefs and the Whitebeard pirates. The people on the beach felt themselves questioning if the trio will really eat all of those or not. But what they saw petrified them in their place. The food, the freaking food, which could feed 20 people for a day, vanished in 2 minutes. The chefs paled and Whitebeard could only watch the kids eat their fill like feral kids. They were fighting for food amongst themselves. He could see the stretch of the limbs and snatching of food by the youngest, and how the oldest of the two protected their food against the other but also allowed him to take it. Also, how the brothers sometimes sneaked veggies in the plates of the youngest when he would be busy eating from others. It didn't end there. The grabby hands were flying all over the plates of the spade pirates, snatching the food off their plates, which they were protesting by stabbing forks if they caught the rubbery limb, but also allowing the team to have some. That amazed Whitebeard. When he thought the kids had enough food, he saw them taking seconds, and the chefs, except Banshee the spade's makeshift cooks, literally fainted in the background. They were black holes. They had limitless pits for their stomachs. Most of the pirates started betting, after recovering from their shocks, on who will eat the most food, and everyone had chosen Ace or Cyan as their best bet. But they were freaking unlucky when it was Syra who stopped eating at his 59th serving, while Ace had stopped at 47th and Cyan at 36th. "Are you brats D's?" Whitebeard asked Syra and Cyan, to which he got a nod, as expected, while the chefs and Thatch paled. They knew how much a D can eat, and unluckily, they were handling 3 Ds. The brothers sat in front of Whitebeard with Deuce at Ace's side. Syra was running around in the middle to play with Stefan and Kotatsu, and then Thatch and Haruta. But Ace and Cyan needed to discuss something. Whitebeard was pouting at the teens who refused to become his sons for the umpteenth time. Well, after the fight, he is gonna accept that they won't be calling him father, but it still hurts. "Why won't you brats become my sons?" Whitebeard questioned again, which he swore would be the last time. "Neither me nor my brothers or my brother's crew want to stay here. We have our own ship, crew, and way of life. It's an honor that you would like us to join your crew, but we all decline," Cyan said, giving him a cold shoulder and defiance in his eyes. "If you don't want to be my son, then become an ally?" Whitebeard half-heartedly asked. He knew that the brats won't be ready to accept this even. Whitebeard saw Ace glaring at him and trying to get rid of Sabo's hands and lunge at him. "Don't you understand, shitty old man? I don't want to do anything with you and your crew." Now, Ace." Cyan was trying to calm Ace down. Whitebeard had learned it well that the firebrat was a hothead and his anger could make him lose, whose very proof he has seen in the fight which he calls spar, and he really enjoyed it when Cyan was keeping Ace and his anger in check. "We don't want the truce to break." "Whatever." Ace puffed and shoved meat in his mouth. "What about we become friends?" Whitebeard asked expectedly. "We can spar sometimes, just like how Roger and I did." He could see the boy trying to hide his twitching upper lip, and that was really a possibility of keeping contact with Roger's brat. He was glad about it. After Roger had died, he had not got a good spar, which the firebrat could give him. "Only if you do not use your hockey on me again," Ace said, glaring at him. Whitebeard nodded and laughed. "Mr. Whitebeard," Cyan spoke. "It was a fair fight and neither group won nor lost. But if I heard that you kidnapped Ace or any of his crew, it won't be good for you." He can see the deadly glint in the eyes of the teen, but that was really not enough to intimidate him. But he liked the threat. "Cyan, Ace TSKED. If they kidnap me once more, then don't worry, I will make my comeback with my specialty." Ace lifted his hat a bit with 2 fingers and gave a cocky smirk. Whitebeard felt amused by the fact that the teens were making plans in front of him and Marco. The gall of them. He liked these types of fiery and wild brats. "Specialty? Or your pyromaniac behavior?" Cyan rolled his eyes and snickered at Ace, who grinned sheepishly. Cyan turned to Whitebeard and stared right into his eyes. "I'm not as generous as Ace." Whitebeard could see the deadly smile. "If anything happens to Ace, I will not come after you." Cyan's lips twitched to a feral smile from his mask. "I will hunt down your every ally and kill them first." Whitebeard felt himself tensing. He could hear the clarity with which Cyan spoke, and he won't take this in a joking way. But he knows that he won't hurt Ace cause he wants to make him his son, which he can't do anymore, but still, it's not his nature to go out of his way to target any brat. Moreover, the other brat was quite dangerous for his crew, so no, he isn't going to take any wrong actions against the spades anymore. They won them. They will be frightened, waiting for their deaths. "One by one I will kill each member of the Moby then." Cyan smirked. But Cyan shook his head and index finger slowly. "I won't kill you." You will be left alone, praying and begging for your death after your family will be killed, and I won't lose my sleep over it." Cyane's pipe pointed at Whitebeard and he spoke, "So, don't dare to kidnap Ace or his crew again." Whitebeard nodded. The thought of losing his children was terrifying. What was he calling on his ship? But he won't regret it. He liked Ace and these two. Many questions lingered on his mind, but he didn't want the brats to feel suspicious of him, but still, he asked one. "What are you three?" Whitebeard spoke, pointing at them and the brat who was being chased with Thatch by a mob of pirates, Whitebeard pirates as well as Spade pirates. "We have bounties," Cyane said, rolling his eyes for dramatics. "You really don't know who we are?" "Pops means if you three C's are pirates or revolutionaries," Marco asked, who was sitting quietly regulating the consumption of alcohol by Pops. Cyane nodded at that. "Pirates," Cyane said. He didn't want them to think of them as revolutionaries, cuz that will only call trouble for them. "Who has the Arashi no mi?" Marco asked. He wanted to believe that he was really formulating a good theory on the 3C group. "We can't give our secrets, but yes, someone has that devil fruit among us," Cyane said, shrugging. Dad and them had already formulated answers to these questions, as it was really plausible for people to ask these questions. And if they didn't get answers, then people could get suspicious of them. So, yeah, give them answers and get rid of it. "But you are not a devil fruit user." Marco glared at Cyane, who burst out laughing at the Phoenix's condition after he had drowned in the ocean. "Yep, I am not," Cyane said. "Cyane, Ace, Syra came running into the campfire side to his brothers." "What happened?" Cyane asked softly, but Syra's dropping eyes clearly showed what he needed. After the transformation, then the party where he ate and danced and played pranks with Thatch, it was obvious that he would be tired soon. "I'm sleepy," Syra slurred before falling forward. He was easily caught by Ace, who placed Syra between him and Cyane. The wind softly caressed Luffy's hair like always and blew off the hood from his face only for the mask to protect his identity. "Little shit," Ace said fondly, making Syra lean against him. Sabo was about to object when he got the meaning of it. It was not good to sleep in masks, so he placed the hood back on Syra's head and removed the mask. The only reason they weren't going back to the Spades ship was due to the fact that there were lots of food still there with free booze and the Spades were gathering themselves. Whitebeard and Marco were watching the interaction with a fond smile on their face. The brat looked way too harmful, but they have seen that they should not take the chance against him. Marco was even formulating the theory that the brat was haunted by someone and its ghost might be coming to protect him. But that sounded the most ridiculous story ever Marco had spun to date. He looked at the brats and made sure that he is not disturbing their sweet moments, before getting the courage to ask. "What is he, Yoi?" he asked in a low voice, getting a glare instantly from the brothers. "He is Syra and our little brother," Cyane said with an icy tone. "A little menace too," Ace added helpfully with a cocky smirk on his face. Marco could feel the fire brat enjoying to torment him. He was the one to love solving puzzles, and here was a puzzle before him, waiting for him to be solved. Only if he could make them their brothers. Maybe he would know more about them. He sighed. One look on Pop said that he was also curious, but he was not speaking, well aware some things should not be asked or something are better asked behind closed doors.